The following is a presentation of the BellyUpSports Media Network.
The ball sends it over to Edward Robles. Go! Insert name FC! Let's go! Insert name FC!
What is up, everybody? My name is Hector, host of the Insert Name FC podcast, a member of the BellyUpSports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcasting on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasting fix from. You can see clips of these episodes on our social media at Insert Name FC. On Instagram and Twitter at InsertNameFC, and on TikTok at insert.name.fc. We're also available on YouTube. You'll actually see snippets of some discussions on YouTube, the video version. So obviously audio version on podcasting sites, and then a little bit smaller, digestible videos on YouTube. So thank you, by the way. I believe we're at well over 7,000 subscribers, so thank you for all the support there. Hopefully we can continue growing it, but also you can find our videos at Golz.tv. GolzTV is an amazing site where you can get all the content you want when it comes to soccer here in the US. And honestly, we might be moving on from the US part because there is also some international editions over at Golz TV. So go ahead and check them out, man. It's been great being part of Golz TV, and I think you guys should definitely check them out. GolzTV. It's a fun site, especially if you're looking for only soccer content, and you're gonna find it there. You're gonna find us there. So and you'll find some great content, and you'll see me there on some of the original programs for Golz TV as well at Wake Up MLS, and you may see me at Youngster Roundtable at some point. I did do an episode a while back, but I haven't really been back on since. But yeah, it's a great platform. Right now it is free, so go ahead and check it out, man, because I'm telling you, man, it's gonna get big. There's a lot of big new additions coming into Golz TV, a new advisor that I'm sure is going to be tremendous for Golz TV. So go ahead and check it out. I think it's going to be exciting to see how Golz TV evolves, and I can't wait to be a part of all that as well. So this episode, so as you guys knew, I was going to take a break because obviously last episode we did the preview for Copa America and the Euro, and so obviously I took a break because I was going to El Salvador. And then by the time we got back, I was thinking about recording another episode, but then I kind of the group stages was still going on, so it was like kind of didn't really make sense to me I mean, it wouldn't be like I could recap the groups. And then also my family, we were doing, as soon as we got back for 4th of July, all my siblings flew into town. So it was kind of more so unpack everything from our trip to El Salvador, which by the way was the best thing ever. I love being able to go to El Salvador. I love being able to see my family over there in El Salvador. El Salvador is something that I'm obviously very proud of, being that it is my heritage. It's my culture, and it's even better when I get to watch it, see it through the eyes of my mom. Obviously my mom is a very important person to me, and this is being able to see that country through her eyes is to me the best part, because I get to learn a little bit more about my mom, even though I know my mom pretty well, but it's really cool to see like how my mom is viewed over there, and a lot of people love my mom and respect my mother. So it's really cool to see that. But then the other thing, the other flip side to this thing, was because this was my niece's first time being in El Salvador. So I was really excited. I really wanted it to be a fun trip for them. Obviously, if you guys know me very personally, you guys know I'm a very well involved uncle. And it's something that I really take a lot of pride in. I always tell people that my nieces are the reason why I'm here. They've, like my niece who is a teenager now. That was probably like the best day of my life was when the day she was born. So obviously, and then the little one now is basically attached to my hip. But my goal was to make sure that this trip was going to be a fun trip for them. And the reason why I say that is because when I was their age, going to El Salvador used to be kind of like a chore. It wasn't really that fun to me. Main reasons was one, I didn't speak Spanish at the time. But also I don't know, I never really had fun when I went to El Salvador as a kid. But, now that I'm older and really more understanding, I want to go to El Salvador. So it's a little different. Um, Plus it helps that I now speak the language. But yeah, so it was really cool to be able to see them get excited through about seeing this country. Because they're half Salvadorian, they're also half Guatemala. They've been to Guatemala, so they're used to Central America. But it was just cool to finally get to them to see our side of the world of Central America, and it was just fun. Unfortunately, we didn't really get to do much because there was a lot of rain. There was a tropical storm that actually went by El Salvador and actually went up above Mexico as well, and I think it actually did hit Texas as well when we went. So at least the planned excursions that we were hoping to do, we didn't end up doing. We didn't get to go to San Salvador. Which fun fact, so Bukele, the president of El Salvador, he had a huge initiative to build a library in San Salvador, which is the capital of El Salvador. And what's funny was I was telling all my family that like in Spanish class, in here in the United States in Spanish class, one of the common sentences that you end up learning is ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? Which is where is the library? So for you guys that took Spanish and just remember that one sentence, this is your shot. Go to El Salvador and finally use that sentence. But yeah, but El Salvador is an amazing country. I love how Bukele has fixed that country up. It makes you proud to be Salvadorian. To see the progression. Some people say he's a dictator, and I don't know. Maybe he is, but you know what? I'm not complaining. He's done a pretty good job. So so I might let this slide. But no, it was really cool. And the girls had a lot of fun. We ate a lot. I don't think I went a minute without being full, without not being full. So yeah, so they really fed us pretty well. I think I gained weight from being in El Salvador, but it was really cool to see, and it was also cool for my brother-in-law as well because he's obviously he's Guatemalan and he got to see where his wife grew up. So it was really cool to like let him experience that, and he had a fun time. So the family had a really great time, but obviously we come back, we had to start unpacking everything and getting the house ready for my siblings. If you guys don't know, I'm the youngest of six siblings, so yeah, it was a full house. Indeed it was. To the point where my mom gave her room up to my sister, and then she actually said that me and her can sleep in my room. But I was like, nah, that's okay. And the reason why I said that was because my job is my job currently right now is in event productions, so I have a lot of late nights, and so I last thing I wanted to do was come in the middle of the night, even later past middle of the night, and interrupt her while she was sleeping. So, what we ended up doing was we took we just happened to have this random twin size mattress. We just put it in the floor in the living room, and that's where I slept for while they were staying here. But unfortunately, because of my job, I didn't really get to do much with my family. I did get to go to the beach with one of my brothers. It was kind of weird. Everybody kind of wanted to do their own thing. No one really wanted to do like the only like as a family thing that they did was 4th of July, but unfortunately I wasn't there for that because and it kind of sucked too because I spent like $400 on fireworks and I really was like I'll say this. I know this we're supposed to be talking about soccer, but here it's been a while, right? Um, 4th of July is my favorite holiday. It is my favorite holiday of all time. I have a lot of great memories of 4th of July. From just my time when I was in high school, and then when I was in the Marine Corps. I think I've had so many fond memories from 4th of July. So, and so I think that's one of the reasons why I love 4th of July so much. It just reminds me of just like the good times that I've had with guys from my unit. A lot of great memories, a lot of alcohol. But it's the thing. It's just a holiday that I just truly love in general. And and so like it's funny because like ever since I moved back to the U.S., um, 4th of July has just not been great. Um, not taking any jabs at my family, but it's just like my family is very straightforward. They'll like, oh, we'll just have a cookout and then we'll go watch the fireworks. Whereas I would have liked to go to a park, spend the entire day at the park, have fun, play around, and then watch the fireworks from there, or shoot some fireworks myself, or go to the beach. Which more than likely, that's what I would always want to do is go to the beach, and then from there watch the fireworks. But that's like an all day thing, and that's just not realistic with my family. And so, and unfortunately, with my job, 4th of July is a very busy day for my job. We had a few events going on that day, and so I ended up having to work. And even though my family was trying to be like, "Oh, we'll just shoot some fireworks," and then when you come back, but I kind of told them by the time I get back, it's going to be super late. Like all the kids are going to be asleep. So I just told them to have fun with the fireworks. So and it's not a jab at anybody. It's just the reality that I'm in. It just kind of sucked knowing that like, and there were some fireworks that really like it was like my inner delinquent, which I mean it's not inner, it's the delinquent in me was really looking forward to shoot, and I think that's where I fucked up on personally, like because now I've been used to the way my family is, so I'm not saying that my 4th of July's with my family suck. It's not the same as when I was in the Marine Corps. And so when I was yeah, so when it was just one of those things where I'm like, oh man, I'm buying all these fireworks, all my siblings are gonna be in town. It's gonna be so much fun. I was like super excited and eager about everything. And then obviously I had to work and I didn't get to shoot a single firework. So I think I got too excited about the fireworks and then I ended up not shooting a single fucking one, and so that kind of pissed me off. Um, so yeah, and also to my siblings, if you guys ever like thought I was being a dick, which I probably was, just know that it was just it what that's not who I am. Obviously, I'm trying to spend as much time as I could with y'all, sacrificing sleep, for some cases, and maybe you guys should have waited a little bit before maybe you should let me get my coffee in before I started socializing, but I may have been not pleasant to one person in particular, and I'm not gonna say any names. And to them, I apologize. But I think we still had our fun moments. I got to take y'all out to real Texas barbecue. So I mean, that was also that was the one thing I really got to do completely as a family was I got to show my Californian family what real barbecue looks like and what tastes like, and so I was really happy that we could have done that. But if I ever felt if you guys ever felt I was unpleasant, I apologize, and trust me, that's not me. Um, hopefully I can find a job that doesn't kill me like I do, like that doesn't kill me like it does now. But that's a whole other thing for another day. But yeah, so 4th of July happened, and then as soon as everyone left from the family, we got hit with Hurricane Beryl. So Hurricane Beryl was a hurricane that was coming from the south. It was actually projected to hit Corpus Christi first before it hit Galveston and then Houston. Um, and so by the time it would have come to Galveston, it should have been it was planned to be a tropical storm. But obviously weather doesn't work like that. So it did not hit Corpus Christi. It came into Galveston as a hurricane, and and that's how it happened to be when it hit to Houston. So then a lot of homes went without power. Actually but I would say vast majority of homes went without power. Obviously, streets were flooded. My street was pretty flooded, at least the initial day. We didn't have power for, I would say, a few days. Yeah, I would say we went. I would say we went like 3 days without power. Um, 3 or 2 days, 3 or 2 days without power, and then obviously, you know. uh if you were driving out here, drive with caution, obviously, because it wasn't ideal roads. Some of the lights weren't working, some businesses were still not working. So there was that, and at this point in my life, I'm used to hurricanes. Would I say this was the worst hurricane? No. Obviously Harvey is probably the one that everyone thinks of when it comes to Houston. But I would even say, like, for at least from my experience from Harvey, it wasn't as bad. We still had power. But the one that to me was that always sticks to my head is Hurricane Ike, which happened back in like 2009, I think 2008, 2009, around there. And because that one we went a whole week without power. The only thing different is that it wasn't hot outside. It was in September, so it was the weather was like not too bad. It was tolerable. Um, but yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, my family is safe. Everyone's good. We all got power back now. So so no worries there. I don't know why I'm getting phone calls as I'm recording, but I apologize for that. But yeah, no, there's still not a lot of homes that don't have power. So it is unfortunate. Um, I'm seeing the people working their asses off trying to get the power back in this community. But it's one of those things that's just gonna take time. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of and now we're here. We're here, we're back, and I'm able to record. And so essentially I ended up taking like a 3-week break, I guess. And um the entire tournament completed. So what's funny was because I didn't think much of this hurricane. I didn't really think it was going to be that bad. Because I felt that because of the thought of it going to Corpus Christi first, then coming to Houston and Galveston, then Houston. By that time it would have been a tropical storm. So it still have some catastrophic abilities, but it wouldn't have been as massive as if it was a hurricane. And because of that, I was planning to do a preview for the finals, but obviously I went without power for quite a bit, and then by the time I did get power, I was working again, so that kind of fucked up my schedule. But yeah, so now we're back to full strength, and so this episode, now that we're actually going to start talking about soccer, this episode is going to have 3 parts in it. As far as the audio version, obviously this is going to be split into multiple videos so I can post throughout the year. And the reason why is because I'm kind of starting to think that with the podcast, I'm thinking of actually having like a legitimate off season. I know that MLS is still playing and Leagues Cup and all that, but my idea now for the podcast is we're going to specifically cover European leagues. That's what we always done. Obviously, we'll still talk MLS and Liga MX, but we probably will just talk about it, not necessarily do full in depth this like previews. And I mean, by the time we'll be able to recap those leagues, but it'll be a little bit different. But obviously we focus more towards Europe and Champions League, and so we'll probably stick to that. But what I'm thinking is, when the season is over, the European season is over, Champions League would essentially be like the last recording. We'll do a full recap, and then the summer will essentially be our off season. But with tournament, obviously soccer tournaments happen. My plan is to then have kind of, I guess you could say this is kind of like the beta version, like how we are hoping for it to look. My initial plan would be is we'll preview the tournament. Maybe if I have actual time to actually go by part, actually go through the tournament as it progresses, maybe do a little bit better. But I think my plan is to have it like to have it kind of like this, where whenever the tournament comes in, we'll discuss it. It'll be like a special episode, not necessarily. So that's my plan. We're gonna start going by season. So, um, I need to double check when the soccer portion of the Olympics start, but I do want to do a preview for that. But I think during the summer, I think we're just gonna start like this, and then maybe I would say like 3 weeks before the European season kicks off, we'll start doing our previews for the leagues and go from there. I think that's the way to go. Just make things easier for me as far as time scheduling goes. It goes for it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. So we'll see how that goes. But so this episode, it's gonna be a long one. So obviously, plan accordingly on how you want to digest it. But we're gonna have Euro recap with Peter Saventer from Belly Up Fantasy. We're gonna recap the Euro. Then after that, it's gonna be me and Jose Tejas from Golz TV discussing Gregg Berhalter because he's finally fired. And then the last thing would be the Copa America recap with Kelcey from High Low Sports. So we'll have that discussion, and then we'll wrap this show up in a pretty little bow. Like I said, the podcast part is going to be very lengthy. But I mean, if I'm not dropping many episodes throughout the summer, it's probably going to be one that you can at least progressively digest through till you feel satisfied. But obviously, there is going to be shorter videos covering segments of whatever was discussed in this episode on YouTube. So if you guys want that to make it a little bit easier to digest, by all means, go ahead. But there is that. So we're gonna go ahead and take a break, and you're gonna hear the recap of the 2024 Euro. Let me tell you guys about BellyUpSports. BellyUpSports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. BellyUpSports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys, the Euro's over. Obviously, I didn't preview it for one. I was in El Salvador, so I wasn't really. Well, not preview it, not cover it, because I was in El Salvador. 4th of July happened. I had all my siblings in my house. That was fun. And of course, you know what happens when you're hosting a family, but not in a disrespectful way. And then of course I got hit with a hurricane. So it's an amazing recipe for where we are now. But now we have this super insert name FC episode. So at least there's that for you guys. But obviously, Euro's over. We got Peter from Belly Up Fantasy to come talk about it. As a matter of fact, he was at Germany for some of the matches. But Peter, it's great to have you back, man. Back in the States. I'm sure that's a big change from Europe to, I believe you live in Boston right now. So a big change of culture.
Boston. Definitely interesting. And one thing's for sure, I cannot wait for the next World Cup, because these two major tournaments that we just got to see, Euros and Copa, it was a blessing. I really wish they weren't the same summer, because next summer maybe the Women's World Cup, which is fine. Like, that will be good to watch. But like I need more. I need more major tournaments, international tournaments. They're the best. Literally everyone watches them. You don't
actually.
Have to
I think it might be the Women's Euro.
Women's Euro, yeah.
Women's Euro and that Club World Cup. That I still have so many questions behind that.
Yeah, I can't wait. We'll see though. I can't wait for 2026. That's all I can say.
But yeah, kind of how I mentioned earlier. Obviously, you were there at Germany for a couple matches. I mean, if you would like to go ahead and share kind of a little bit about experience,
Yeah.
how'd you like the atmosphere? Did anybody try to sneak in through any vents over there at the stadiums, just out of curiosity?
No, I thought it was going to be a lot more like chaotic, but honestly, and I think this is also just because Germany's done this before, right? Like they hosted, I believe, the 2006 World Cup. I don't know
Hmm.
if they hosted a Euros or World Cup for anything in the women's side in that time period, but Germany knew what they were doing. They were prepared for this moment. They also hosted in '88 the Euros. The Dutch one. Sadly, it didn't repeat itself this time. But Germany knew what they were doing. It was an awesome time. The trains were easy going across the country. I went from Cologne to Leipzig to Dortmund. My first experience was the Cologne Stadium, and it was Scotland, Switzerland, which was an absolute party. It was a scene. Like the Scottish knew because they got battered the first game versus Germany. I think it was like 5-1 or something. They knew they had to get a result. They couldn't mess around. And me and my buddies, we got tickets, and it was the greatest experience. Honestly, my favorite stadium to be at, mainly because you walk through the city and then you enter like a little park slash forest area. And we went through this park for like 30 minutes. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Harry Potter or read the books, but it reminded me of the Quidditch World Cup almost. Like
Oh, okay.
out of nowhere, a stadium just comes out, and you're like, this is where the stadium is? Like, it's in the middle of a forest. And the atmosphere was incredible. The Scottish were getting loud. And the best part is, like, there was no real rivalry with the fans. Like, yeah, like maybe some Scottish or some Swiss fans would give each other a hard time, but there wasn't like any bad blood there. Like, it was mainly like they just want to support their team. They want it to be a good game. They want to see some goals. And we got to see Scott McTominay have a goal. And I was on the Scottish side for that one. And then I remember seeing Shaqiri's belter, which I think curled top left corner, and it was one of the best shots I've seen. And to see Shaqiri, who is an absolute legend of the game, who has scored in the last 3 Euros, last 3 World Cups, to see him play was honestly a treat. And then the next game was it was a blast because I'm Dutch, as you obviously know, and I went to France versus the Netherlands. Obviously, the game wasn't as great because it was 0-0. Still think Travis Simon scored. Well, whatever. But in that game, obviously the march happens, the orange march, and me, my brother, and my two friends wore orange suits for the game, and all the Dutch fans knew we were American. Like they were like, "Oh, like why are you here?" And we just said, "Oh, our dad's from the Netherlands, he's from Amsterdam. We really wanted to go," and they embraced it right away. Like a lot of like honestly pretty funny, and I think it was just because they were having a disappointing group stage. A lot of the British fans were upset because whenever like we would talk to them, we would be like, oh, like the British need to do this. Like they need to get Kobe Manu in the lineup. They got to get Cole Palmer in the lineup, stuff like that. And they'd be like, oh, you Yankees don't know what you're talking about. And it's just funny because they're just frustrated with like the way that England performed in the group stage. They were the only fans that were kind of like, and not all, just a couple bad eggs here and there, as with every group. But overall, those were the only fans that were like almost upset that the Americans were there, but it was a great time. Like I enjoyed myself so much, and then I got to see Ronaldo play. Obviously, he didn't do anything special, but even just to see him on the pitch, the game we were at, it was Turkey versus Portugal in Dortmund. We were right next to the invaders that tried to take a photo with Ronaldo that day. It was insane. He had more pitch invaders than probably shots the whole tournament, so it was pretty interesting to see. And then, yeah, I mean, just the fans being together, like just interacting with one another, just playing soccer in the street on the way to the game. Just such a good environment. The Euros, I think, just are a special, special breed. Like it really, the one thing I do complain about the Euros is I wish they added maybe, because I think it's 24 teams right now, if I'm not mistaken. I wish they added a couple more teams so that we could really make it the third place game, because the third place thing is a little weird to me. It's a weird concept that 4 out of 6 third place teams make it, but it is what it is. I mean, the Dutch got lucky in that sense. They wouldn't have made it out of their group if third place teams didn't make it. But overall, it was the best soccer experience of my life. I'm really excited, and I'm kind of worried for how these experiences will get minimized in America and not really the same vibes. I would say, like my friend jokingly said, because in Boston, the stadium's not in Boston, it's in Foxborough, which is closer to Providence than it is Boston. Like where are these Dutch fans going to march from? They're going to march down like Rodman Arena, which is a high school rink in Foxborough. Like it's pretty crazy, and I'm excited to see it all happen. And yeah, it was the best experience of my life. And watching, honestly, just watching the games at the pubs with the fans too. Just like really taking in that experience, being able to just sit down at a bar and just sit with a bunch of people, and I don't know anything they're saying. They don't know anything I'm saying, but we both just love the game, and that's what it's all about. I mean, that's why it was a blast for me.
Yeah, I mean that's just another explanation of why this game is so beautiful. It doesn't matter what language you speak. I mean, everyone has their black sheep, and that's an unfortunate thing. But this is why it's the open, the best sport in my opinion, the best sport in the world because of it's opening, it's inclusive. It doesn't matter what language you speak, where you come from, what's your where you are financially. The game is for everybody. All you need is a ball, and you don't even need 2 goals. So you can create your own goals.
Hey,
So
shoes, get rock, do whatever.
shoes, rock, a backpack, my shirt. So I mean, like things like that. So I think it's awesome. Great to see that there's people that were just inviting and letting you experience everything that was the culture, which is what's the best part of it all. But yeah, man, you got to see some great matches. A lot of things happen in this Euro, and so before we get to our bullet points from this tournament as a whole, we'll go to biggest disappointment of the tournament. So, Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start. And again, the way I view disappointment is I'm going to view it from the sense that I really thought I thought they would do something better. I thought that they would really, based on all the group stage games, I thought they were the best team after Spain. But I would say the biggest disappointment for me was Portugal. I mean, I know a lot of Portuguese fans aren't gonna like that, but you guys had the best attack outside of Ronaldo. I felt like you had Bruno, you had Bernardo, and Rafael Leao. Leao was so much fun to watch. Bernardo obviously is a different breed. Then you got Paulinho, Vitinha in those center mid positions, and then your defensive Cancelo. You got Ruben Diaz. You got Pepe, who literally looks like he hasn't lost a step, and he's like 40 right now. And then Ronaldo just almost butchered it. Like it was just disappointing to see because they had the great game versus France. I felt that obviously the Slovenia game was weird, but it just felt that Ronaldo just took away from this team's full potential. And it's just tough to see because he obviously wants to play because he wants to, even though no one else believes this, he wants to prolong the GOAT debate. And it's not a debate anymore. And it's just sad. And he's just not hurting his legacy by playing, but he's hurting his legacy by not being a good sport and not being a good teammate. Like he took every single free kick, I think, except maybe one Bruno Fernandes took versus France. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like free kicks are hard to take. They're whatever. But did Ronaldo maybe think like he just needs to accept his role of being like, and my brother said this, and I laughed at him at first, but it's kind of true. Like he should have embraced his role of being like, and this is obviously very extreme. He's not close to this skill level. He's much more talented, but he could have embraced being like a Wout Weghorst, like just being a tall guy in the box that can finish, just cross it into him. Just really, he traps the ball, he plays it off. He really is a target number 9, and Ronaldo wasn't like that. He just tried to be who he was in the past, and that's kind of what hurt Portugal. He didn't adjust his game, and I think if he adjusted his game, like maybe they'd be in it still because Ronaldo can head the ball. He can still get up there. He's still athletic. He's still a big guy in the box. He'd probably be much better than Wout. He'd be like Giroud almost, a little better at this point. But it's just disappointing in my eyes because I really thought he could have been better. I thought he could have been much better.
Yeah, I think kind of where Ronaldo's at is it's kind of similar to Moneyball, and the only reason why I'm saying this because I just recently saw Moneyball, great movie. But it's when and I'm sure this never actually happened in real life, but when Justice, when Justice was talking to Billy Bean, and he's saying, I'm not bringing you for the player you were, I'm bringing you for the player you are now. And I think Ronaldo has so much wisdom that he could implement, especially with a generation of Portuguese players who I thought in a few years was going to be the next France, and I was wrong because the next France is France, and so and it isn't. But yeah, Portugal there's so much excitement around them. Rafael Leao, he's one of the funnest players to watch in the Serie A right now.
He takes people on too, which you don't see enough of in the game. And that's kind of why Spain looked good. They were brave and they took people on.
Yeah. Bruno Fernandes, I mean, still clinical player. He's not the reason why Manchester United is where they are. But he is definitely a very solid player. Bernardo Silva still hasn't. I would have thought I'd see him take a few free kicks, but obviously Ronaldo's Ronaldo. And when you talk about the GOAT debate and when it comes to Messi and Ronaldo, I would say this: look at their national teams right now. Look where they're at right now. Messi did not have a great Copa America. I don't let anybody tell you otherwise. He didn't have a great performance either.
Who won player of the tournament for Copa? Was it Martinez?
He was the Golden Boot Boot winner.
James maybe win best player. I mean, he had a great tournament. It would make sense.
James led an assist, so it might have been him. Which is crazy. Only time plays Colombia, wears a Colombia jersey. That's when he's great. But you see the evolution of Argentina. Argentina, when in the World Cup, everyone was like, "This is the worst Argentina team I've seen in years," and they won the World Cup. But as you saw the team progress, they played for Messi, and now it's like we got it, Messi. We don't need you to be special anymore.
He taught them how to win.
And Messi took that step back. I mean, the guy that scored the winning goal was Lautaro Martinez. The guy that we all thought was Gonzalo Higuain 2.0. And but and when you look at Portugal, it's like Ronaldo is just holding them back. And I mentioned this in the last World Cup. The Portugal looked better without Ronaldo on the field. We saw the rise of Gonzalo Ramos
versus Switzerland. Yeah,
we were like, oh shit, look at this kid, man. This kid can do it. PSG, that's a whole other topic for another day. But Portugal looked so much better without Ronaldo on the field, and that was one of the reasons why some people got mad at me that I said that for that Ballon d'Or that Ronaldo wasn't on the list because he had just a shit year in general, because mixed with him getting kicked out of Manchester United and now playing in Saudi.
It's just an attitude thing, and that whole Manchester United thing. Obviously, there was a lot more stuff that I think a lot of people agree. Like Man United is a little dysfunctional, but Ronaldo could have, I think, went about it in such a better way to keep his. Because when he came back to the EPL, he wasn't bad. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he have like 16, almost 20 goals his first season back?
He was definitely contributing.
He was doing stuff, and it's just disappointing because he's an idol to so many kids, and his work ethic is beyond. It's crazy good work ethic. It's just what he's come into now is just. It's just not the same person.
It's the arrogance, and I think that's the falter. But yeah, Portugal, good shout for big disappointment. I'm a go with another nation that was a pretty big name that also very much disappointed me, and that's France. I don't know if they're just too cocky now. Yes, they went pretty far in the Euro, and I get that, but there was not a single game that I saw that I was like, wow, this team is amazing. And so, I think the Netherlands showed the chink in the armor of France. I think that they did very well defensively. But once again, France I felt like they just stayed on the first gear and never decided to take that next level. Throughout the tournament, I felt like there was a lot of matches where they could have handled those opponents very well, and they didn't. I think that there's an arrogance right now with France, and I think that's what held them back, because their team is loaded in every step and on every facet of the field. But and then once they finally got outclassed by Spain, and so I do think, and I know that they went pretty far in the tournament, and I get that might be kind of shocking to say France, but it was disappointing to see them play because I know what they're very much capable of doing.
Yeah, they have their second best team is their second starting 11 is just as good as majority of nations' starting 11s. Like I wonder what the issue was for France, because obviously I think the one thing that definitely happened, or one thing that you could point to, is Mbappe is the new captain. Like, was there an issue there potentially? I don't think so. I don't think he's the reason anything happened. The mask, I heard him complain about the mask, and it's just kind of annoying when people say that, because Victor Osimhen, he plays with a mask all the time. You don't see the greats don't make excuses, and Yeah, he was in, I guess, the group of death with the Dutch, Poland, and Austria, but he could have done better. Like this tournament, you're right. They weren't exciting. They weren't the France of old. Like, what happened to that France from, honestly, not even last World Cup, but like 2020, 2016 Euros was so exciting. Griezmann was at his prime. 2018 World Cup, they were so exciting. And now they're a great team, and they'll always do decent in major tournaments because they just have the talent. But and their coach is good. You gotta give credit to the coach, and the coach has been this good for so long. But I don't think any I don't think any French person would say, hey, like, yeah, I was impressed with their tournament because they weren't impressive. They slept walk through it, and then they had to play Spain or they would have played Germany, and I think both of those teams would have beat them. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So biggest surprise in the tournament. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, Austria, man. I mentioned Austria. I'm a believer in Ralph Ragnick. I thought the game has passed him, but clearly I was fucking wrong, and I'm glad that I was wrong because Austria was. You got to think about the fact that they're without their captain and their best player in David Alaba, and Ralph Ragnick kept them in every single. They won their fucking group, which is
yeah, the
impressive.
group of death.
The
To be
group of
fair,
death.
like they topped France and the Dutch. Like that's really no one saw that happening.
So yeah, my biggest surprise is Austria. I mean, they got eliminated in the first round. I wasn't expecting them to make a runner by any means, but I think props to Austria, despite having certain limitations and despite not many people thinking much of them, and with a manager that Ronaldo talked a lot of shit about. Put some respect on Ralph Ragnick's name. There's a reason why he's one of the most respected managers in Germany, and so yeah, just want to give him his props. So there he is.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. I think my biggest surprise, and it's mainly because I don't think anyone really had them maybe higher than third in their group, was Romania. What they did this tournament, I mean, I'm really excited as a Tottenham fan because we have a debate now because I thought Dragusin at center back looked fantastic. Like he made some plays versus obviously they lost to the Dutch in the round of 16, but he made some tackles that just changed the game. And they looked like a unit and a team that just they didn't have any stars really. They just wanted to play with one another. Similar to like a Georgia, which was also a great surprise. But they had guys that wanted to play together. They had a game plan. They trusted their coach, and they played the right way. And I was very proud, or not proud. I was very happy to see what I saw from Romania because what they lost 1-0 to Belgium. They smacked Ukraine 3-0, and then they tied Slovakia 1-1, I believe. Yeah, Slovakia 1-1, and I mean, you can't ask for a better tournament from Romania. Like, I don't think any Romanian fans would have said, yeah, we're going to win the group. And they did. So it's good for them.
Yeah, so that's a very good shout as well. Honestly, even dropping Georgia and Romania, I think both those teams exceeded expectations and had very good tournaments. But all right, we're now in the portion where we're gonna have our bullet points from the tournament. Like I said, draft style format. Each one of us will present our two takeaways that we want to mention from the tournament, and then and we'll discuss them. So, Peter, the floor is yours. What is the takeaway that you want to discuss from the Euro?
First one is, and I'm gonna get crap for this. It's not Southgate's fault. I don't think it's Southgate's fault. I think that a lot of England fans want to scapegoat Southgate, and it's kind of like they don't remember who they are as a country because they were nothing. I think before Southgate, they made, I want to say it's 3 semifinals in World Cup and Euro Cup like appearances, winning one in 1966 before any of them could even, like, most of them were not born yet. A lot of these guys that are talking trash on Twitter about Southgate, and they're just like, oh, Bobby Charlton, like, we had such a great team. It's like, you did. But don't pretend like that team, like, you remember that team or like, I mean, it's just kind of, they're prisoners of the past, and they forget that what Southgate did in this 8-year run, 2018 semis, 2021 Euro Cup final, 2022, Hurricane missed a PK. Who knows what could have happened versus that French team? And then that French team went on to play Morocco. I'm sure England would have beat Morocco, made a final. 2024 World Cup final or Euro Cup final. I mean, it's like, yeah, you can say all you want about Gareth Southgate, but at some point, one of the players got to just take responsibility. And you can say he's not playing the right players, but whenever I see these player comparisons, they always say, "Oh, our golden generation was the Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, Beckham, Rooney, Michael Owen era." It's like, if it was, then what do you think Gareth Southgate could have done with those guys? Like, he took a team in 2018, which was good, but it was not the England it is today. Harry Kane was good. Dele Ali, that's a throwback. He was like one of their best players. Eric Dyer was starting. Like, he took that team to a semis, and like eventually the players just have to put their hands up and say, this is on us, because I am sorry, but Kyle Walker got destroyed on both those goals in the final. He clearly was not playing up to his par. I think Harry Kane, I love the man, but I think it's going to come out. I think he was hurt, because there's no way you take him out in the 62nd minute of a Euro Cup final unless there's something going on. Oh no, I just think, and I'm going to get crap for this again. Jude is amazing. Jude is one of the best players in the world. I think sometimes Jude is I think a lot of the England players kind of get a little annoyed with Jude because all the talk is about Jude. Like, I don't know. I was just a little, my takeaway is, I don't think it was Gareth Southgate's fault. And I'm really interested to see who they select for 2026, because I don't think, unless they get like Thomas Tuchel in my mind, who is a knockout specialist, I don't think they're going to do better than these finals they've been going to. Like, they act like they're like a Brazil or like a France or a Italy that wins these tournaments all the time. They are right there with Portugal and the Netherlands. Like, they're not like world beaters. They're not like, and I love the Dutch, but the Dutch are the smallest country in like the smallest like great country in the world. And like, that's fine, you know. I wish they beat England. It was a tough game. Ollie Watkins, great goal, shout out him, but the players need to take responsibility. Like, at what point are you going to keep on letting up the first goal in every single game in a knockout stage? At what point are you just going to like say, hey, we should not be losing 1-0 to Slovakia for 90 minutes?
Mhm. No, yeah, definitely.
Like, I personally felt the only time that they looked like the best team, was versus the Dutch in the first half, and they looked like the England that they should look like all the time. Phil Foden looked like the Phil Foden of Man City, and it's just weird to me. Like, those players need to just take ownership for once, and like, if the fans want to blame it on Southgate and scapegoat him, so be it. But they're in for a rough surprise, because I don't think it's going to be easy.
Mhm. No, I agree 100% about all that with England. I think one, what the fuck has England done? I believe they only have one World Cup under their belts. So, and that was like,
66, like,
yeah, I mean, I was like, my mom, to give you guys a reference, my mother was 6 years old when
yeah,
England won the World Cup. Actually, 5, because it was in the summer. But like, so what the fuck is it like? Where is his birthright? Like, it's not like
arrogance.
the birthright is Brazil, and even they're fucking up. But I mean, yeah, Southgate, I don't blame him. I think since he took over England, they've been competitive. They've gone pretty far. Like, there's a moment where you do have to look at the results. It's different with the
Yeah,
Berhalter situation. I know everyone keeps trying to say Gareth Southgate is Berhalter 2.0, but if my team makes it to the fucking semifinal and we're talking about the US, then I would be fucking complaining as much as I do with Berhalter. So I don't, and I mean, there's moments where you do look at the results, and then yes, the way they play, some may say it could be a little dry, and I do agree to that. I think England does play very dry at moments, but at some point, I think it is a combination of tactics and how the players play. There's no excuse for England. You have arguably one of the best players in the world in Jude Bellingham, and if you guys want to be mad about it, cry about it. I don't give a shit. He's playing for Real Madrid right now. As a matter of fact, won a fucking Champions League with Real Madrid. So I mean, not to
three Man City players in the team. You got the Golden Boot winner across Europe. You got the Premier League Player of the Season, La Liga Player of the Season. You had Cole Palmer and Ollie Hawkins on the bench who finished second and third in EPL goals. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. And Ivan Toney for some odd reason. And so
Like,
there
what they're
that
capable of. It's just sad.
yeah, so I mean I think that there's like obviously there's some things that maybe Southgate could improve on, and I do make that argument, even though I still think Southgate was a very quality manager nonetheless. Um, and I mean, he's leaving England. There's rumors of him potentially taking the U.S. job. That's a whole other topic for another day. I don't know if he has the mentality for CONCACAF. That's just my thoughts on that one. But
It's a different beast.
yeah, so I mean, England. Yeah, it's just close but no cigar, which has been the theme so far for England. Which I mean, it is what it is. But I think you could still put your heads up high. It's not like you're getting blown out by Spain, even though the way Spain was playing in that final, and we'll get to that eventually. But that's a good talking point to have. My first talking point that I'm gonna make is that this was to me the tournament of the smaller nations. I think we were talking more about these smaller nations than you normally would when it comes to Euros. And I think you make a valid argument as to like maybe the Euro does need to expand a little bit because I do want to see more of these nations compete. I want to see, who could more upsets continue on in this tournament. Maybe see Kazakhstan because I really want to make some Borat memes. But that's just me. But yeah, I think the smaller nations show out. I think it's exciting. We saw the excitement when Iceland was in the Euro. I want to see more of that excitement. The fans is something that is so important to me about the Euro, that each different culture is being represented. And I know that's shocking to America because, well, if they were in America, they'd just be a white guy. But I mean, like when we're talking about the Euro, you could see the difference in cultures. I honestly found it hysterical when the guys that were breaking the spaghetti in front of the Italians. Like I thought that was just chef's kiss. Like that's great trolling on that part. I love just the trolling in general. Or our food's better than your food. I just thought that was like the best. Just the humor that came from it. I need to see more of that. I need to see more countries in the Euro. The Euro is just as big as it's not as big as the World Cup, but with the size of what Europe is,
Right there. Like,
with the size of
it's right there
Europe,
with the quality too. Like,
there needs to be an expansion. Just add two more groups, I think. So that way the round of 16 is in fact the round of 16
get
with the two.
Wales, get Ireland, get Sweden, get Holland, get Odegaard in it. Like, I want to see Norway. Like, get these teams in it that like it would just add some spice.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to see some more countries. We need the Irish in the Euro. I'm just gonna
They're
point
in
that
the
out.
next one, thank goodness.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the
Uh,
next one's in UK, which will be awesome.
oh yeah, that's right. So that's my talking point that I took from the tournament. I just want to see some more countries. I think that this was a lot more fun, and it'd be more fun if we see some more countries into it.
Yeah, no, definitely agree.
All right, your second bullet point, Peter.
So I was stuck between two. One of them was I think Spain these next 4 years are going to have a little bit of a run, but I think that's a little boring of one. Here
Hmm.
it is. I think Germany this is the start of a golden generation for them again. What they have with Nagelsmann at manager, the young pieces they have with Musiala, with Wirtz, with I'm blanking on his name. Oh my goodness, the center mid they had a bunch of Leverkusen guys on the team, but I just think with what they got and just how sturdy and steady German football is, and they lost to the best team in the last minute of the game. Like let's not like Germany. Like realistically, Germany was the second best team this whole tournament. They just had to play Spain. I think Germany's going to go on a run, and I am very scared of German football. I think they're going to be back, and I think Rudiger will be there for a little bit still too. Like he's not too old as a center back. I'm trying to think who else they have that I'm missing on their squad, but they have a great squad, I think, and I still think they can do some magic. And I think with Nagelsmann at manager, I think that they're gonna have a similar like run of what they had in 2010 to the 20 or honestly 2006 realistically to 2000, I believe 14 when they finally got over the hump and won that World Cup. So I'm excited for the German football, and it's good to see them back because they're one of the best nations in the world to watch. When they're on their game, they are top.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we got to see Manuel Neuer in potentially his final European competition with as the German goalkeeper, and just a scary thought for everybody. I don't necessarily believe Neuer is now the best goalkeeper in Germany, uh, because Mark Ter Stegen is unreal. He's honestly what kept Barcelona in a lot of competitions. And I know as a Madridista, I shouldn't be praising a single Barcelona player, but Ter Stegen is a fucking problem, and I can't wait to see what the back line will look like when Mark Ter Stegen is in charge in between the sticks. Because the man
And he's been waiting for that moment. He's gonna be ready. I
and
think he's gonna be.
he's not old. I mean, when we talk about goalkeepers, we're talking about he's at the prime of a goalkeeper needs to be at. Mentality, physically, I think that he's going to be a problem. Might be the captain for Germany when things are for the upcoming World Cup. At least that's what I think. It could be Rudiger. Rudiger is just a fucking dog, and I love him. So yeah,
He is so fun to watch.
Germany is, bro. The fact that he single-handedly kept Holland quiet is just like you. That's a guy. Holland's a guy that you need a double team, and Rudiger was like, I'm good, guys. I got him, and he in fact did have him. The entire it was impressive. Yeah, so Germany, there's definitely a good core of experienced players there. But the future of Germany is scary, scary good, and I can't wait.
They should be there, even though it's unfortunate they got knocked out in the quarterfinals. Even like, who looked good, and I hate to say this, and I know he's gonna get shit on because he misses a lot of XG, but I thought Kai Havertz had a decent tournament too. Like he gets in the right position, and if he learns to finish a little bit more, and I know that's what people say about Timo Werner and stuff, but it's true. Like if you, and sometimes it's just a composure and a mentality and a confidence thing. You get his confidence up. I think the sky is the limit for him.
Yeah, I just want to point out it's been 4 years and now we're still waiting for those 5 goals that he promised from the Champions League. Um, that's a little inside joke from the podcast. But yeah, no, Germany is going to be fun to watch. I can't. Yeah, that's it. It's going to be a scary team. The word "young" is just the word that right now you're saying with Germany because young coach, young core players, young strong core players. Not we're not just saying like they're all young. It's just you're talking about kind of similar to like a Xavi Hernandez, Andres Iniesta, a generation of Spanish players that were dominant for quite some time. Germany has that kind of potential with their young core players. So that's going to be exciting to watch for sure. And then I'm going to just say my
I think we're
final.
gonna see a lot of, yeah.
No, go ahead. Finish.
No, yeah.
Oh,
I was gonna say just quickly, I think like everyone, as you said, France like became that team. I think Germany and Spain are gonna really challenge them now. And it's gonna I think England kind of lost their chance.
yeah.
I think it's gonna be interesting.
The window definitely is very much open now in Europe, and that's a good thing. And then my last bullet point is his name is fucking Lamine Yamal. I hate that I'm praising Barcelona players right now, but like I was excited to see what this kid was gonna do in a Spanish kid.
Who calls it?
I saw him as a Barcelona player. He was a fucking problem to me, and in Spain. God, this kid. First of all, if you guys don't know, he led the tournament in assists with four assists, which I mean, there's a shit ton of Spanish players that are on that assist category, but he led them with 4 assists. His youngest player to score a goal in the Euro, and he did it in a fucking semifinal. Yeah, this kid is every much going to be him. I know everyone started throwing out the photo of him as a baby with Messi giving him a bath. That's not weird by any means. But yeah, it's crazy how he's so fucking young. Turned 17 and wins the Euro. Didn't turn 17 that day, but still 17 years old and wins the Euro. This kid is going to be a problem. This kid is going to be very expensive. I know the rumors are that PSG wants to spend 200 million on this kid. But Barcelona needs to do everything they can, and I know that they're broke, so that's saying a lot. But they need to do whatever.
Yeah,
They need to do whatever they need to do to keep this kid in Barcelona because this is the definition of a generational talent. This kid is an amazing player. So much so that you have a guy that straight up wakes up every day hating Barcelona, having to give him his flowers.
He was, I mean, and what an idiot move by Adrian Rabiot for even just saying like he hasn't done enough in the tournament. I was like, has he? Because I'm pretty sure he is leading the tournament in assists. So I don't know what you're talking about. And then he scores a banger in front of your face, Adrian Rabiot. And probably, the last moment you'll ever start and touch the field for France because what a joke he is. Like, why would you even like? Did he think he was going to get in the kid's head? Because the kid is 17 and playing in the Euros. Like, there's clearly he's starting for the best team. Like, he clearly has a killer mentality, even though he might not look like a killer. Like, what are you doing? Like, that was the biggest just idiotic move I've seen from someone.
Yeah, man, and you know what? To mention what thinking that Rabiot can get in his head. We're talking about a teenager. We don't know anything that goes on in a teenager's head. So I
He
mean,
probably
like,
isn't, yeah, he's not thinking too much. He's like, I have so many years ahead of me. He is going to be playing like how many more Euros does he have? Like he might be able to play in like 4 or 5 more Euro Cups. Like it's pretty nuts to think, right? Like 21, 24, 5, 29, 33. Yeah, like he has a long time left.
and I mean, I know that my bullet point was mainly for Lamine Yamal, but um, throwing into the Lamine Yamal discussion though. But it's just I am so excited for the future of this sport. The names that are coming out, not only just in Europe, but even in South America and even CONCACAF. CONCACAF, you can get some love too. Um, the entire world, there's somebody coming out that's gonna make this such an exciting period of soccer. Like the Ronaldo Messi era is very much over, and we're going to see multiple names being thrown out for the Ballon d'Or. And I'm so
I like
excited
that.
of what this future is going to bring. Lamine Yamal, Mbappe, Cody Gakpo. There's, I mean,
That boy putting my Dutch guy in there. I love it. I'm hoping Liverpool fans don't get mad when I say, what the hell was Klopp doing not using him at left wing this whole time? Like, he is clearly a left winger. Like, him and Leao kind of reminded me of one another, where they're just tall wingers who can take guys on and they can rip shots and they're tough to beat. They're tough to take the ball from.
mm-hmm.
And another name just for young guys that I'm hoping, because he looked great. I'm hoping Xavi Simons can continue his progress and I hope he does. I don't want him to go to Bayern yet. I want him to stay at Leipzig for one more year and start every game because if he goes to Bayern and doesn't get the minutes, I worry he might have what happened to like a De Ligt or Donny van de Beek when he went to Man U. And I need Dutch soccer to just protect this man at all costs because that offense could be really fun with him, Gakpo, hopefully Frimpong down the line, and Bobby Bobre, I think his name is, from Ajax. He's a very young, promising striker.
No, yeah, I think the names are going to be exciting. There's so many names that I can't think of them right now, but it's exciting to see like all these names come in. I'm hoping to see different guys winning the Ballon d'Or. At least for my bank account sake, I hope Vinicius does win this one. But that's kind of up in the air now.
I think it's probably gonna go to Rodri, right? Like who gets it? It's a big toss up now.
It could be Rodri. It could be Carvajal's even being thrown in there. So
I mean, at first I was like, what? And then I remembered he got the game-winning goal in the Champions League final. And then I was like, okay. I mean, he wins a lot, and
he has been crucial. I mean, as a former right back myself, I would not lie to you.
Like a couple of years back when Jorginho won everything.
Yeah.
Like Jorginho won everything. I think he didn't get it in the end, but we'll see. I kind of hope it's Rodri because he's been the best, I think, defensive midfielder in football the last like 4 years now. Yeah. So he's been dip.
I mean, Casemiro has nothing on him at this point. It's
what Rodri does is insane. And you know what? The fact that England still lets Spain dictate the possession of that game. Like if I'm Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice, and Kobe, I guess mainly Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice. In that game, when I see Rodri go out, I'm telling each other, like, hey, we got to dominate now. Like, this is our game.
Yeah, for sure. But, all right, we'll segue right into the final. Obviously, Spain wins it 2-1. And I mean, I'll just say it, Spanish football still lives on. Like the style of play that Spain plays with in precision passing, possession, it's still very much embedded into every Spanish player. The game has evolved now because now we do have speed demons like Nico Williams, which he did score a goal in the 47 minute. Um, but yeah, to me when I saw this game, it was just it's Spain's game. It's Spain's game to lose. Like I never felt England was ever in discussion of this game.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that the one thing about Spain is this that there, as you kind of said, I think England had the right setup,
Hmm.
right? In the sense that they knew you needed the wing backs because you're not going to beat Spain playing a back four. You needed the three in the back and then the wing backs to almost contain Lamal and Lamine, sorry, and Nico Williams. You need to contain them because you're not stopping them. And like Alvarado Morata doesn't have to do much. Like he just has to be a decent number 9 and just accept his role. In Spain, I mean, Fabian Ruiz, no, that's a guy who really turned up this tournament. Danny Olmo, I mean, his price tag went up this tournament. They did this without Pedri. They did this without Gavi. Like, they're just a great team. And I think Spain, like, I think they're in a golden generation right now. Like, they're gonna have a lot of chances to win some silverware. Like, they're gonna be in a lot. Like, teams are not gonna want to play Spain. And the thing is, like, they keep possession. I felt that. I mean, the thing is, though, if you're England, right, and you're those players, and you're just like starting a club, like if you go player by player, I'd probably say more England guys get picked, but like Spain just plays like a team. Like
And
England
that's
just doesn't play well.
that's a perfect description that the better team was Spain. And you mentioned the men's team, how they're in their golden generation. I mean, we did mention it
Women's
earlier
too.
about the women's Euro. Uh, they
They
got
just won
their
the
own
World Cup.
golden generation over there in Spain
Yeah,
for
they
the
just won the
women's team.
World Cup, didn't they? Versus
Yeah,
England again
yeah,
with the
we just
semi-finals.
forget
So
because unfortunately there was a scandal that got thrown in there by a douchebag president. But yeah,
oh, I forgot about yes, that was bad.
yeah. So I
I
mean,
forgot about that. Wow.
everything's just pointing Spain right now. If it just seems like it. And the crazy thing is that it's not being mostly produced by Barcelona and Real Madrid, which used to be kind of what it was in the last golden generation of Spain, if you will. Um, and it's because of just everyone now seeing the quality of a Spanish player. That's why teams are now going after Spanish players. And also, I gotta point this out, man. Just to point out, the goalkeeper for Spain is Unai Simon. I don't necessarily rate him very highly, but um, I guess he's our best goalkeeper option right now. But still, I mean, I would have probably started David Ryan, but that's just me. Uh, but but yeah, I think
He did
this
well. I mean, what team is he on? Is he on Bilbao?
yeah, Simon, yeah.
I mean, they just look. I think it saw a stat since 2002. Spanish teams in finals are 27 wins, 0 losses. Like that's just insane. Like
Yeah.
that's just not you imagine if you just kept on betting on just the Spanish team to advance or lift the trophy every time. Like you'd eventually be like, oh no, they're due to lose. But it's like no, they just continue. Like, and people always say the Prem is much better, and I think when you look at teams like 10 through 20, there's no doubt the Prem is better. But like you got Atletico Madrid winning trophies, you got Sevilla winning trophies, you got Valencia, Villarreal. Like they got some teams that can win trophies. That's not just Madrid and Barcelona. And that's what I think a lot of arrogant fans or sorry, not ball knowers say. Like they're like, oh, it's just Barcelona and Real and Atletico's there, but they got a bunch of good teams there that continue to win, continue to impress. And I mean, who did Unai Emery coach for 3 seasons and they won 3 straight Euro Cups, right? Or did they win? Am I
Sevilla.
mistaken in that? Sevilla, right? Yeah. Like,
And then he
I'm
won with
sorry to bring it up
Villarreal.
to you. Yes, and then did he leave from Arsenal to Sevilla or was it Sevilla to Arsenal?
He was with PSG. He went from Sevilla, went to PSG, and then went to Arsenal.
Like, yeah, I mean, he's special. Like, they know what they're doing. I think Spain has. I wanted England to win just because of Kane, but England just. I cannot stand Jordan Pickford, man. Like every time they pass the ball back, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm just gonna kick the fuck out of this." It's like, dude, you're playing a team that loves possession, and what your plan is to kick the ball up as high as possible, so that either Jude or Harry Kane, that clearly is hurt, to try to head the ball wide, so you guys can get like a crazy counter or something. Like it's just such a bad like the players need to. And you know what? I said it wasn't Southgate's fault, but a little bit like I think the players need to stand up, but also like Southgate probably needed to be like, hey, like let's do something different because we have like they have the personnel to match up with Spain. Like that shouldn't be the issue.
Hmm.
Like they can play any style they want. Like they have so much talent up and down that bench. And it's just a shame because England is gonna be like, oh, we should have won. Like, but I think their generation's done now. Like I don't think they're gonna do. I mean, are they better than France? No. Are they better than Spain? No. Are they better than Germany? No. Are they better than Portugal? We'll give them they're better than Portugal, but and they're better than the Netherlands right now. But the Netherlands weren't supposed to be here. Like England was supposed to be here, and they needed a 90th minute goal to beat the Dutch, and the Dutch were missing. I think personally, I think England would have lost the Dutch if the Dutch had one player. And I know you're a Madrista, but if they had Frankie de Jong, I think he completely unlocks that midfield and he could actually help them keep possession.
Yeah, it's another
But
player that I hate
one
to
thing
give
like
flowers to, but you're right. Frankie De Jong
his turns are so when he turns with the ball, it's just so like he's just so good with the ball at his feet.
he's
He's
very
not,
Tony, very similar to Tony Cruz, a very like of
mhm.
importance
And
to the midfield.
I think him and Reinders, who I think had a great tournament, number 14 on the Dutch, I think they would have been amazing with Xavi Simons at that center attacking mid role. And, you know, it's unfortunate they lost, but I think the Dutch have everything to be proud of, and England is just going to be upset. And, you know, as a Dutch fan, I'm high on them after this tournament. As an England fan, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, when this is never going to happen. Like, it just will never happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I think that Europe is going to be very interesting to watch in the next coming years. Just soccer in general is going to be great to watch in the next coming years because of all the names that are going to come. Obviously, next week, Olympics kicks off, and we're going to see some young names in the mix. In that one, obviously, they're allowed to bring three players over the age of
I think it's
26.
like three players over. Yeah. Do you know if any of those guys, like who any of those guys are for those teams, the three players over 26 or whatever?
No, I got to go through the rosters. I got to start doing my homework on that because I got to preview that for next
I know
week's episode.
Messi played in the Olympics like once way back in the day. Sorry, my alarm is going off. I just got to turn that quickly.
Yeah, I mean Messi did play in it. I think he was just he actually was qualified to play for the Olympics because he was obviously a young player. The older player that came in was Riquelme. That was who was there for Argentina.
What a throwback of a name, Riquelme. I remember using him in FIFA.
The streets forget that legend. Yeah, man, there's so many. Man, I think one of these days I got to do a draft of players that people forget about. And that's just because of Messi and Ronaldo. But
About so many just great legends. Honestly, in Argentina a lot too, and like Brazil, like that golden generation is something different.
yeah, it's been great. But yeah, that is the Euro, a great final. Congratulations to Spain for winning it. I don't know how many times they've won it so far now in their career in their lifespan, but four times now.
Three in our lifespan, four total.
Yeah, so that's right. I did. This is the third time I've seen them win it. So yeah, you're right.
Crazy.
Absolutely.
They won three of the last five Euro Cups. Like it's very under the radar.
Yeah, what a generation La Roja is. But I also called this final the battle of the colonizers, and some people said I was an
Actually, yeah, the semis as well.
So it wasn't wrong. But yeah, it was a great final. Fun to watch. Happy for Spain. Happy for Carvajal. Happy for Nacho. For all of them to be able to lift another trophy. But we'll see. Maybe this impacts the Ballon d'Or in some way. But hopefully it's still Vinny because I don't want to give away a jersey. But thank you, Peter. This is your time now, man. Tell everybody what's going on with Belly Up Fantasy and what's the big thing going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, as you know, obviously I've been pretty into the Euros, Copa America, but now we're heading into football season. So we've been looking at some fantasy prep. Our guy Brandon Gaber, deep dive football FF. He's been doing a lot of projections for us, looking at all teams across the league, quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end. So we're been giving out projections every day, giving his thoughts on it. But yeah, we're getting ready for football season, and we can't wait.
Yep. Football's back. Obviously, that's important in America. And I am too. I'm a Texans fan. I'm now going into a year where I'm optimistic about the Texans. Last year, I was excited because of CJ Stroud. Now I have expectations now as a Texans fan, so that's new. So that's gonna be it's gonna be so much fun for this NFL season. I can't wait. College football also is coming back as well, so I'm excited about that. NCAA football. I
I gotta get the
apologize.
new Xbox. Yeah.
Apologize to my family and friends, but I will not be hanging out with y'all. I'm gonna try to make a dynasty. So, but thank you so much. Thank you so much, Peter. It's always great having you on, man. It's always fun hearing your perspective of the game. You definitely know your money lines for sure. So hopefully you made some money off of this Euro.
Yeah, I got a couple. Me and my brother had Georgia to make it out of the group, and then we had the Dutch to make it all the way to the semis, which helped us get some money. So it was a good tournament overall.
So all right, good to hear that, man. But thank you so much, man. Make sure you guys check out Belly Up Fantasy at Belly Up Fantasy. Lots of great stuff to talk there, especially across the world of sports here in the U.S. So thank you, Peter, and always great to have you.
Yeah, have a good one, Hector.
Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast, here to tell you guys about Canada Dips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip, using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada Dip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BellyUp20 at CanadaDipCBD.com. Once again, BellyUp20 at CanadaDipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canada Dips for being a great partner of BellyUpSports. All right, guys, we're going to take a break from the big summer of soccer tournaments that are being recapped. Obviously, you guys just heard me and Peter recap the Euro, and next is going to be me and Kelcey talking about Copa America. But we're going to give you guys a little break, and obviously, I've been away for a while, right? I went to El Salvador. 4th of July happened, so I mean, I can't take that. You can't record around that time. Plus, all my siblings were here, so that was fun. And of course, if you guys know, I'm from Houston, and we got hit by a hurricane, and I didn't have power till Wednesday, actually. So when the hurricane hit, which was, I believe, was Sunday, Monday, somewhere around there, and then I didn't get power back till Wednesday. So I was lucky. I know some people that still don't have power right now, so I feel for you, but I'm glad I'm not you. So at the same time, sorry, not sorry. I'm just. You guys want to know exactly how I got power? It's because I live by a fucking hospital. Like,
That's crazy.
I'm a priority. So
That's crazy. That's wild though, bro.
yeah, it's insane. But yeah, so two beautiful things happened the day that I got power. One, obviously I got power back, so AC, which is a necessity here in Texas. And we got the news that one Gregg Berhalter has finally been fired. The crazy thing is that it took this long for the U.S. soccer to finally fire them. I think U.S. soccer was hoping that people were just going to stop talking about it, but thank God. I know people say it's delusional for fans to think that they have some impact on this decision, but I think it's merited. I mean, there was pressure not only from fans but from the media finally, and I think that that's a good thing to come from as far as like where the growth is in this country now. So that's positive. But I'm gonna be honest with y'all before we get into the whole Gregg Berhalter spiel. U.S. soccer is so fucking problematic. The federation is probably also as corrupt as can be when we talk about. It's very fitting because we're CONCACAF, because there's a lot of corrupt federations in North America and Central and Caribbean, and the U.S. is no slouch on that either. They're not very aggressive. They have not taken any sort of control over the soccer that's even played in our own country. I mean, let's be frank. The fact that MLS can just to the Open Cup. I mean, I value it, but by the occasion, on the occasion, doesn't matter. Like if it depends on my mood when it comes to Open Cup. But being that they don't try to at least act like they care about the Open Cup is also a concern. And so I think U.S. soccer, there's a lot of big issues. I think that while the manager's a very important decision that they need to make, there's also a lot of cancers that are in that federation over at U.S. soccer. And that's until then, I still have my concerns for this federation. If it wasn't for the fact that we have finally got a crop of players that are benefiting from finally having a clear pathway from youth level all the way now to professional. Because let's be honest, this is why we're calling them the spoiled golden generation, is because they're finally the ones that got to benefit a true player pathway. And so if it wasn't for these generational players, if it wasn't for Gio Reyna and Timothy Way and Balogun and all those names that you could think of, there would be no hope for U.S. soccer. But obviously, that's a whole other topic for another day. But right now, Gregg Berhalter has been fired. Jose, you and me have had our problems with Gregg Berhalter for a very long time. We've actually spoke about our frustrations, but I mean, what was the breaking point for you to have Gregg Berhalter be out?
The breaking point for me was a long time ago. It was watching, and look, man, for those who don't know about my allegiances locally, in terms of the footy that, the clubs and the teams that I support, I'm a major FC Dallas fan as far as MLS is considered. And I thought it was a travesty that even despite some of the form he was in, Jesus Ferreira being called up to the World Cup roster over Pepe, I think was criminal. I think, sure, in a Gold Cup against some of the Caribbean nations, he might produce for you. I would say even for FC Dallas, sure, he's got a great record of a goal tally with the club, and no homegrown has ever done what he's done in terms of producing at that level. But it's I think with what we've seen from the lot of players that we know we had access to and could have called up, it just felt like a comfort zone move. And I feel like that's what Berhalter is a comfort zone coach. You never hear anyone talk about how Gregg was able to push this player to be their absolute best, to reach their potential, et cetera, et cetera. You hear about how cool he is off the field, how Tyler Adams never had a conversation with him about soccer or football. Maybe that's part of the problem, right? Maybe he needed to be a little more tough, or he wouldn't be in the situation he is in now, which is, again, unemployed. Rightfully so, in my opinion. I never advocate for someone to get fired, but holy hell, he needed to be fired. Like, he really did. And I think at the end of the day, his rehiring said everything I needed to hear about the U.S. Soccer Federation. I think they're not going to shock and awe anyone in this process. I think from my perspective, maybe I'm being negative, maybe I'm being a pessimist. I don't know. But I've been following this federation for far too long to feel optimistic about where we go from here. Am I excited to get a new coach? 100%. It is absolutely necessary. Just to even freshen up morale and like make the players feel like they're on the right path moving forward. But I don't believe the federation will be able to land someone, or even wants to land someone, that is so far and away different from what they've prioritized in the past, which from my perspective has always been things like culture, things like growing the game here domestically. From my perspective, nothing grows the game better than winning as many games as possible. And so I'm hoping that factors into the decision-making process at least more than it has in the past, but I'm not super hopeful. So.
No, yeah. I mean, I think for me, the breaking point with Gregg Berhalter, it's been actually a good while that I wanted Gregg Berhalter out. Obviously, I think I was pretty quick to like see, okay, yeah, he's winning matches, but look who the fuck we're playing. When I started noticing that trend where, hey man, when it comes to the upper echelon nations, and I'm not saying we're gonna spank England or mop the floor with Spain or anything like that. And I'm not saying we're gonna be able to shut down Lionel Messi, but I do expect them to at least punch above their weight. that's what I do want to see. And it's kind of it does get frustrating when you do see, you know, Mexico upsetting Germany, you know, in the 2018 World Cup. It's frustrating to watch Costa Rica make their semifinal run back in 2014. And you know, you're seeing other CONCACAF nations being able to punch above their weight. And besides Mexico, those are nations that we have a lot more better resources than. And it's also I've watched a lot of Gold Cups,
Yeah.
and I've been more impressed by other nations, not the U.S. And it's like the U.S. is just kind of skating by, and then just waiting to get to the final and just handle their business. But then I'm over here being wowed by Curacao, being wowed by Guatemala,
Or
you know,
Panama this past Gold Cup.
Panama,
Yeah.
you know, and Panama this Copa America, you know, impressing me also from them. Canada impressed me. I called them out in our preview. Called them out in the preview, and look what they
And
did.
look at Schaffelberg, bro. You know what's crazy about that Canadian run is that like it's like so many Americans were, even after Berhalter got fired, we're hoping for Canada to lose. I'm like, why? It reinforces the message. It shows that you don't need world beaters in terms of talent to get results. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jesse Marsh has one win in like, or maybe two wins in like 9 games with Canada. Like, it's really not impressive, his overall record. But what sticks out is a semifinal appearance in Copa America with your leading talents outside of maybe Alphonso Davies, let's say Kyle Larin, a lot of talents on that team being Major League Soccer talents. When we were griping about the fact that Gregg was calling up MLS players at certain points throughout his tenure, seeing Jesse Marsh do it with Canada because he frankly has to, and still getting results. It is very possible to see a coach do nothing more than will his players to win, which was the rhetoric right now around this whole process from, I don't know if you saw this clip, but frankly, the people, the pundits and the personalities over at CBS are kind of starting to piss me off. Guys like Charlie Davies, guys like Brian McBride, talking about some of the candidates that are up for hire and what's needed to get this team to the next level, acting like, how do they say it? That a rah-rah guy is not what they need. I would say it's absolutely what they need, amongst other things, but they need a fantastic competitor who knows how to get the best out of who's in and around that locker room. And that's one of many things that whoever this next hire is going to be has to have. But Jesse Marsh has that in spades, and Canada was able to get the most out of their potential in this tournament. I think that the U.S. at a minimum has to look for someone who at least has that trait, because I can't stand the conversations that are being had right now from those who have a platform. It doesn't, not everybody, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of creators at the independent level who are being very realistic about this process. But I think the way some of the bigger media groups are talking about it, it's like they're trying to have hot takes on purpose, man. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's what it is. I can't really tell, but it doesn't make any sense to me. Like when they talk about guys like Hervé Renard or anybody else, it's just like they seem so uneducated on who those candidates are and what makes them unique and why they should be targeted. But anyway, we could jump to that part here in a little bit. I just think that there's something to be said about those types of managers. Jesse Marsh and the talent pool that he had, achieving what he did, and you mentioned it before, punching above your weight. We just haven't seen that from this U.S. men's national team in so long that I don't see any major problem with the competitors who are the rah-rah guys, because there's a lot to be said about that type of manager right now.
Yeah. And I will say, like, the last straw, which obviously was the game that affected everything for the U.S., which kind of, I guess what you would say, led to this downward spiral for Gregg Berhalter, which was the Uruguay game. I mean, that game was a mess in general. I mean, you'll hear me and Kelcey kind of talk about as far as how CONMEBOL wanted to kind of cut corners when it comes to this tournament, even though all the blame is going to be on the U.S. But you know, watching how that game transpired, there was nothing inspirational. There was no fire lit under them. Even like you're gonna have bad. The refs are gonna be bad. Like there's nothing you can control about it. But what you can do is get these guys back in the game. And of all, like, if you're keeping an eye on the Panama game, it's fine. I get it, but no one needs to see you fucking tell them, "Hey guys, the score is 1-1," which
That shit's crazy to me,
didn't
bro.
even fucking matter because it was 3-1 at the end of it all.
What's the mentality? Like what? Like just think about it. Like when have you ever? I've never even at the youth club level ever seen a coach scream out another score line to his players to get them motivated to reset their mind. Like none of it. I've never seen that. When I saw it happen, and I keep in mind, like for those who don't know that I do this, I was live streaming a watch along for this game. You could go see it on the Golz TV YouTube channel. I was in shock for like 2 minutes after the fact. I could not believe the senior manager of our senior U.S. men's national team was doing this as a means of getting more out of the players he had on the field. The mentality of this man was beyond me. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of things that are just one of those things where I'm like, I cannot believe this guy still has a job. That's a prime example. I mean, I'll be honest with you, the way he handled the Gio Reyna situation was very poor on his part. The thing is, I say this to people, like, he leaked the information. All you had to do was put 2 and 2 together. He's doing some motivational speaking.
It was a leadership summit or some shit. Like it was a weird scenario. Yeah, exactly. Bro, I'm not even kidding. I said the exact same thing. I was like, it's so ironic that he was at a summit about exhibiting good leadership when he did the exact fucking opposite. But yeah, man, I mean, not to take any words out of your mouth, but it was just the guy, I don't know, man. For someone who's touted by the players in his camp as being a good man manager, he did the exact opposite with that scenario. And at the end of the day, he did the one cardinal rule. You never expose your players or anything that stays behind closed doors. That always remains behind closed doors.
Yeah. And so after I found that out, I was rooting for Claudio Reyna. Even though I still to this day believe that he has a very punchable face, which is
fair. That's fair. To be fair, Gio does too. Gio does too.
Yeah, he does. It's a family trait.
Yeah, 1,000%.
But yeah, so I mean, it's been a frustrating. His term has. I kind of wish that after the World Cup they would have fired him and just left it be, and then you have to. And this is where it comes into play about my thoughts of the U.S. Soccer Federation, where they just spend I don't know how much money on a search committee, but I know it's not cheap to only just rehire Gregg Berhalter. And then mind you, in the meantime, the U.S. is playing great. So and this is why my counterpoint to everybody that it's not the players. The players clearly can play because once again, BJ Callahan had this team playing probably the best football I've ever seen from that crop of players. And this is once again our quote unquote golden generation. And so it was frustrating to see that this team is what they're capable of. And mind you, there was MLS guys in those BJ Callahan call-ups. Yeah. And they didn't look, it wasn't like, oh, the quality is inferior. It looked very solid performances from those U.S. teams. They dominated their competition. They handled the Nations League, which you're supposed to. And then obviously Berhalter got hired, and then they had to go back to playing Berhalter for Gold Cup, and that's why they looked like ass. And so for me, it's just, it's more so than not. A coach could be the big solution. Obviously, U.S. Soccer Federation is still a massive problem. But I mean, at the end of the day of it all, Gregg Berhalter's gone with 2 years left into our cycle for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and we can't fuck this up.
Yeah,
there has to be a good performance for the World Cup. And the positive of being grouped in Copa America is that everyone now sees what we see in Gregg Berhalter. But I will say, Colin Cowherd, stick to football. Stick to talking about soups and being worried about defensive coordinators that wear the baseball caps on backwards, because you have no right to talk about soccer. You're talking about winning percentage. Look who the fuck Gregg Berhalter played. And you can see why he had such a high winning percentage. What you should be looking at is his winning percentage against top 20 teams, because that's what's atrocious.
Yeah.
And so And I mean, it's great that that American pundits want to have an opinion on these things, but it's also once again kind of makes us look bad at the end of the day because they don't know what's going on.
And look, and if someone like personally, I think if Coward had just put the disclaimer out there, like, hey, you know what, you could play dumb on your fucking show. You don't necessarily have to be a quote unquote expert in everything that you talk about. You can literally say, and this will gain so much trust with the fan base. You can literally say, guys, do these types of stats that typically matter in other sports matter in this one, right? Because the beautiful game is unlike anything else. This is why stats by SofaScore or FOTMob or whatever sparks these debates on the timeline don't really matter that much. When they lean into the stat argument first, I'm like, you didn't watch the fucking game. Just say it. You didn't watch the game. So you're throwing all these stats at me to try and make your loose point that I can easily poke holes through because I watched the game and I saw that player play with my eyes. And there's a lot to an eye test that will never show up in stats. Defenders, goalkeepers are the primary culprits there, but like just all across the pitch, there are things that players do that you'll never see on the stat sheet. So it's just unlike any other game. And I think Colin Coward took that approach and played dumb, played ignorant. You know what, man? Fair enough. At least you're showing interest. I can hold your hand through this process, brother. But if to come in acting like an expert, like you can diagnose the problem, like you're some shady fucking doctor from down on the Cayman Islands that only gets hit up when something really hits the fan and they have no one else to go to. I don't know, bro. The whole thing reeked of those types of vibes where like, it's what's the term? It's, when someone is seemingly fake or they feel imposter syndrome. It's just reeked of that. Like this guy is trying to act like he belongs, but he doesn't, and he shouldn't try to. Like I think a lot of fans would honestly, even other fans outside of this game, would buy into soccer if he would just come out and say, guys, I'm trying to get into this. It's the most exciting time. The World Cup's around the corner. In 2 years, I want to be living and breathing this. So I'm getting into it now. Cool. Awesome. I think a lot of people would say, bro, I respect the shit out of that. I'm going to start listening to the takes and I'm going to chime in and engage on your posts when you put some out there because I know that you need the help. Bro, everybody would respect the absolute shit out of that, but not this. Guys, Berhalter's the answer because he's won more games technically than any other manager in history. I'm like, brother, you're so far gone. It's wild. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, you can't change the federation. The federation, it is what it is until. Hey, maybe now that U.S. soccer fans see that they can make impacts, them and the media, which is one of the things that like also needs to be change here in the US is that there needs to be pressure towards the federation, pressure towards the teams, because that's what makes this different from Europe. That's what makes this different from South America. Just don't be going through vents, and you'll be So those are the things that makes that helps. And U.S. soccer has been comfortable knowing that they can do whatever they want because no one's going to say anything. Well, the World Cup's in 2 years. And the Americans want to see the U.S. be dominant, and I mean we're weeks away from the Olympics, and we're expecting the U.S. is expected to dominate in every sport that is given to them. So soccer it needs to get caught up, and I think that it's going to change now. People are more aware about soccer here in the U.S. than you guys think, and it's not you can't be playing dumb with us anymore. Yeah. But there is still an important job that needs to be put, and that is the manager, of course, for the U.S. team. So, Jose, we're going to have 3 categories. We're going to have a reach of a manager that we think could probably come in for the U.S., which means more than likely it's not going to happen. What we would like to see, so a manager that you would like to see that you feel would fit the parameters for the U.S. men's national team, and then, of course, what we think U.S. soccer is going to end up doing.
Yeah, man. It's so I imagine we're starting from the dream signing, right? Like who absolutely gets targeted here. I think the dream signing for anybody, but let's say I don't want to go too far fetched with this pick because I think that I have someone in my mind that's like the absolute like tournament manager of all time that we could try and target, but it just wouldn't like I just don't see him ever doing it. And like that dream scenario would probably be someone like, let's say Carlo, right? For example's sake. I'm not saying that's my pick, but I'm just saying like that to me is like very far fetched because I just don't see him ever leaving. I think he would never leave Real Madrid. It's just that
I mean, he was supposed to take the Brazil job.
he was 100%. But I feel like it's just one of those where it feels too far-fetched. It feels like way beyond the realms of reality. I feel like if he was going to take, like the thing is like at this point of his career, he's such a fantastic man manager that he really needs to ensure that a certain floor is there in terms of quality and in terms of star power. Because I think that's where he thrives, that environment. I think when we saw the transition from Everton back to Real, I think that we saw like a different version of Carlo again. I think Brazil offers him that too. Not only a certain amount of Real Madrid players, but just the star power, right? Literally, probably the most sought after national team job in the world is probably Brazil. I can't think of another country that would attract more managers. Now, with that said, a far-fetched pick of mine, and I actually think, from my perspective, it's only far-fetched because he currently coaches a big nation. And I think this could work depending on like what we wanted to go after. I say what, meaning results versus things like playing style. But as someone who prioritizes results over anything, I think the dream signing, believe it or not, would be someone like Gareth Southgate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the reason I lean in that direction is because you look at all the managers before him. Look at what England accomplished prior to Southgate arriving. They've had a golden generation fly by, right? And for those who don't remember, go watch the 06 World Cup, the 2010 World Cup, the Rio Ferdinands, the Frank Lampards, the Ashley Coles, the Wayne Rooneys, the David Beckhams. That was a generational class of talent. And I mean, at a time when the Premier League was at its absolute height, it still blows my mind. Like I remember watching England getting eliminated by Portugal in the 06 World Cup, right? And like the method in which it happened, Rooney getting a red card, the Ronaldo wink, like all of those things. And it's just like one thing after another, or them barely qualifying for the 02 World Cup. It took a crazy Beckham free kick against Greece in the final game of qualifying to get that. Like, it's just like whether it's one reason or another, they've had such great talent come through. Now you can argue that the talent is maybe hitting another level, which means that results have to happen. And he's made it to semifinal, final. Like, though that is whether people want to see it or not and are demanding trophies, that is progression for the motherland of football. That really is. That is progression for that country. People are going to say, you know, maybe he absolutely had to win the Euro 2024 because of the expectation. But I think people were just sleeping on Spain. They were sleeping on probably a number of countries, to be honest. But also, I think reading too much into the hype that some of these players carry individually. The Jude Bellinghams of the world, the Phil Fodens of the world, the Bukayo Sakas of the world. There's so much hype, Cole Palmer, all around all these players and individually, but it doesn't mean they can work as a team. And I was actually pretty impressed considering how bad they looked in the group stages. But look, man, with how the U.S. plays under Berhalter, would we be giving Berhalter as much flack on that front if he was getting results?
See, that's the counterpoint because I feel like the results have been there. Obviously,
No, but in major tournaments, like if he had gone to like the semifinals of the World Cup with this U.S. team, would we still be crying for a new manager?
No, and the reason why, obviously, that means that he is getting results against top 20 nations. He's
exactly.
I mean, you know, people may say what they want about Gareth Southgate. I've actually praised that man plenty of times because once again, England for quite some time was a laughingstock. Yeah, there's heartbreak. You know, it happens, but you're in the fucking final. It goes back to some of those people that like say, I'd rather get blown out than lose by a small margin. I would much rather lose by a small margin knowing that my team put everything out on. And I think that's also the thing is like, if I can clearly see a Gregg Berhalter led team playing top quality football. And I know that it wasn't because of it wasn't because they were playing bad. It wasn't because they didn't have bad tactics. It just wasn't their day.
Yeah.
I can tip my cap to Gregg Berhalter. But every single game, it just feels the same thing. They're playing conservative. They keep trying to play the ball through the back with center backs that sometimes honestly don't necessarily agree with their feet. And we all know how great Matt Turner is with his feet. Which
Seriously.
he's steadily gotten better. But still not there. But and it's like it's crazy to think when you look at that attacking front that the US potentially has, and it's like, how come we're not moving the ball through them? We keep praising the midfield. How come we're not moving the ball through them? Why is the ball being run through by a center back when we clearly have, midfielders that can do stuff with the ball? We have Christian Pulisic waiting on the wings. Obviously, I'm not taking jabs on Jedi and Sergino Dest. I think obviously they've done amazing on the wings, and I kind of don't count them as defense sometimes.
Yeah.
But if I can sit and watch a Gregg Berhalter game and say, "Oh, this is great football that they're playing," I wouldn't be complaining as much as I have. I have felt that his tactics are very dry. It's not creative. It limits the players to their creativity, and that's also something that I kind of want in a manager, is to see someone that it lets them be creative. And I will tell you, Southgate lets his players be creative. And yes, he had to be saved by Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka off the occasion. But you know what? Big time players come on big time moments, and he has a roster full of big time players. So, yeah, what you say about Gareth Southgate is a very interesting thing. I think England, they're close. They're so close. I don't know
and some look, in some ways he got in his own way. I don't agree with how he treated like Harry Kane and all of that stuff. Like to dick ride Harry Kane and just let him be captain and always be starting. I don't agree with that. I think you put your best 11 on the pitch. And in my opinion, for that England team, Ollie Watkins was by far the better striker. At least in terms of what they needed. They needed someone to run into the channels behind the back line to create space. And they just did not have that. And Harry Kane was dropping in so deep. Like, brother, if you want to be a center mid, say something. Like, they can move some shit around or call up another forward. But with players like Bellingham, Foden, Rice behind you, you do not need to drop into the fucking midfield to get the ball. Stay your ass up top, challenge the center backs, and be a striker. And I don't want to go on a whole rant about that, but that was my only criticism, really, I think, of how he handled the tournament. But outside of that, whether it's ugly or pretty, you have to get the results against the teams you have to beat, and you really want your manager to be able to get the result against the top teams out there. And Southgate did both. And so, again, if this is Berhalter with the U.S. men's national team, if we had gone to the Copa America semifinal and lost in PKs this short of a final or whatever, right? I don't know if we're even having this conversation.
Yeah. So Gareth Southgate, I think, is a good reach option, because I don't think England is going to lose him anytime soon. And if he does end up leaving England, I'm sure it's for a Premier League job.
Yeah, probably.
So there's that. My manager that I think is a bit of a reach, is a name that has been thrown out a little bit. I do like his defensive tactics. I've praised that man way too much now. Even though his recent run of form has not been great, but he is definitely a quote unquote tournament manager, and that's Thomas Tuchel, which would be very controversial, being that the fact that him and Christian Pulisic don't see things eye to eye so much as of lately. But when it comes to a tournament, the man knows how to take his teams far. Literally what kept him for as long as he could at Bayern Munich was because of the fact that Bayern Munich was making a semifinal run in the Champions League this year. I do mostly blame it on the Harry Kane curse, but there is still that. Actually, as a matter of fact, I believe Bayern Munich was actually trying to keep him after they realized that they were very limited on options. And obviously that's why now they have Vincent Kompany as their manager, and we'll see how that pans out. But Thomas Tuchel is without a job. Like I said, I think tactically defensively could probably fit very well to CONCACAF. I don't necessarily feel like he puts strains on his attack, but obviously we're looking for someone that's going to be able to put that attack to the next level. And obviously Thomas Tuchel is not necessarily that guy, but defensively they'll be solid.
Yeah, I agree.
But all right, who do you want to be the next manager of the U.S. men's national team?
If I could do this my way, I actually have two for different reasons. But I think I'll stick with the most realistic of those two. I was going to say Yogi Löw for a lot of different reasons of what he's done with Germany. I think, anybody who follows Germany and the 2010s era is very familiar with his work. And Yogi Löw, the biggest obstacle for him would be English and connecting with these players. But I think who I hope it is, I hope it's a foreigner, first and foremost. I hope it's someone who isn't so tied to these players, this group of talent, or even the federation. I want someone who's coming in with a chip on their shoulders to only do one thing, and that's win. And I'll be honest, man, I know he's got a long-term contract. I don't know how they make this work if it were to be possible, but I'll be honest, like it's such a low likelihood. I would take Wilfried Nancy tomorrow. I really would. I think he's the biggest reason why is not even a lot of people will cite his dynamism, his tactics as a manager, how he has Columbus Crew playing and working at this time. But I think it's bigger than that. I think what he showed in the run up to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final, when he was literally benching Cucho Hernandez, stuck out to me in a massive way. That there is zero nepotism, there is zero agenda with him. It is literally the best 11 will play, and not just the best. Doesn't also just mean best on the pitch, but those who are bought into what he wants to do on the pitch and how he wants his players to act out off of the pitch, right? And you combine all of that into a very disciplined team that can work through a system that helps them win games. And I feel like Wilfried Nancy can achieve that. The biggest obstacle to acquiring him is really going to be, I think, his long-term contract with the Columbus Crew. I don't know what it will take to really kind of get him out of that. And also, I think for the sake of Major League Soccer, which I do watch avidly, they would be missing out. They would be losing out on a pretty damn good coach. One that has kind of set the standard for how managers are graded and critiqued in this league. And so, I'm sure he could be in this Columbus job for quite some time. Not even just that, but I'm sure he also wants to end up back in Europe at some point. And so, I don't know how a national team job would affect those ambitions. So for a lot of reasons, it's unrealistic. But I do believe that with what we can spend, where we are as a federation, who we can attract realistically, I think Nancy, for a lot of good reasons, makes sense. Someone like the only difference between like him and like Hervé Renard would be the recent success that he's had on any level versus Hervé, who's had to really kind of deal with, he's on the French women's national team now, but people are citing his Saudi Arabia stint in the World Cup and losing to Mexico. I heard Charlie Davies say this shit, by the way, and I couldn't even believe what I was hearing. This man was trying to put down Hervé Renard for losing as the Saudi Arabia manager to Mexico in the World Cup. I'm like, do you not fucking understand? Like, because he was saying, oh, the U.S. men's national team manager can't lose to Mexico, not this Mexico. I'm like, do you understand that the team that we have is not fucking Saudi Arabia? Like that, on paper, we're just wildly different in terms of quality on the field. Like, no disrespect to Saudi Arabian national team, but they're just not a top 15, top 20 team in the world. They're just not. So why are we making an apples to apples comparison? That's the shit that I don't like about like just the conversations being had around who's the next manager in line. But I think Wilfried Nancy would make both sides fairly happy.
Yeah, I think Wilfried Nancy, obviously, we all speak very highly. Actually, if you guys check out Golz TV and Wake Up MLS, we do give a lot of flowers to Wilfried Nancy, and we do believe he is the standard of when it comes to MLS coaching. You know what you said? You gave me two names. Obviously a realistic one and one that you think is kind of a little bit of a reach. And I'll kind of do the same thing. The manager that I think would be a reach, but I would love to see what he could do with the U.S. men's national team, would be Pellegrino Matarazzo. I think what he's been able to do over in one has his credentials through UEFA. I look, as someone that does have an F license from the U.S. Soccer Federation, which obviously was just going through a slideshow presentation. And obviously I haven't gone and I'm not trying to be a coach, so I'm not gonna continue pursuing it. But and I've seen the process, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I feel like the U.S. Soccer Federation licensing for coaching is kind of a joke. I know some. Don't get mad at me. Don't any of the people that I know that have their licenses. No offense to you guys, but I've also seen you guys also go pursue other licenses through other federations. So also, I'm not that far off on that take. But and I think U.S. Soccer Federation, if they can finally grow a pair, whenever that can happen, I think that they need to take a lot from what Germany has done with their not only their system, but how the system also helps the Bundesliga. And I know that sounds crazy to say that because obviously it's been dominated by one team for so many years, but look at their fucking generation of players. There's always good German players that are coming out now, and that's because Germany's federation has put in an emphasis on developing German players. I believe that you're supposed to have a certain number of German players on your team. As a matter of fact, because in Bundesliga and across the leagues, that you have to have a certain number of players that are German. So I feel like hopefully if US ever grows a pair, someone that would be very familiar to those kind of rules, it would be great to have a guy that understands how Germany has done it and he can put his insight into it. And Pellegrino Matarazzo has done a great job with Stuttgart. Used to be a very laughable team. Yes, he wasn't with them last season, and they looked amazing this past season. If it wasn't for Bayer Leverkusen, we'd probably be talking about Stuttgart a little bit more.
Yeah.
But he had an impact on that. And then look what he did with Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim was on the cusp of being relegated. And they finished in a very good position for next season. And I think that is all on Pellegrino Matarazzo. Plus, the guy's American, and he's from fucking New Jersey, which if you guys don't know anything about U.S. soccer, New Jersey just seems to be like the mecca of soccer players. I don't know why. Should be Texas. But that's a whole discussion for another day. But I'll be honest with you. The soccer capital is New Jersey. I don't know why people are trying to say St. Louis or Cincinnati, Ohio. It's been New Jersey. Most players come from New Jersey, the New Jersey area. I'll throw Pennsylvania in there as well. But
I would say East Coast in general is pretty strong.
It's very strong in the East Coast. It's specifically more toward everybody I've met as far as in the soccer in a soccer setting have some sort of connection to New Jersey. So, I mean, clearly it's there. The presence in there is New Jersey. So, Pellegrino Matarazzo would be the name that I don't think is going to happen because he did mention that he didn't seem to like the way he was approached for the U.S. men's national team job when it was available. He said that it felt that it was very like rushed, and I think they were just trying to say, hey, look, we interviewed him. So I think that there's a bad taste in his mouth, similar to Jesse Marsch with the U.S. men's national team. So that's where I don't think necessarily that he would take the job because of that. But Pellegrino Matarazzo is my reach of who I would love to see take over U.S. soccer. And then who I would realistically think is very much possible is Hervé Renard. I think he is. I mean, if there's one word you hear me say a lot in this podcast, is the man's a fucking dog. Like, I mean, like he beat Argentina. The only team that Argentina couldn't beat in the World Cup was freaking Saudi Arabia. Just like, I just want to point that out. He rallied his troops and got them to go. You know, I don't necessarily know about the tactics that came in play, but he somehow lit a fire under these guys' asses, and they went ahead and beat Argentina in their first match of the World Cup. And now they're all driving Ferraris because the Saudi Arabian government went ahead and hooked them up. So, I mean, like, that is it. The man has won 2 AFCONs, one with Ivory Coast, the other one with Zambia, I believe. Have you heard them in AFCON in a while? I haven't. So
Ivory Coast, I mean, to be fair, they had a good run in this past tournament, but yeah,
they did. but we haven't seen him in the World Cup. At least I've never seen him since I existed. So, but he, 2 AFCONs. The guy is proven in tournaments. I mean, give him his props for how he performed in Saudi Arabia. Oh, he didn't. Charlie Davis just, go back to doing the stinky leg. Like that
I
was
don't know,
that was a
bro.
bad take.
Charlie Davies is kind of just, I don't know, man. A lot of people like him. I think his takes, he might be a great guy. I'm not judging him as a person, but his soccer takes sometimes are fucking horrendous. Like, I don't know,
He's a
man.
Wish.com version of Michael Richards.
Yeah, bro. I don't get it, man. It's just like even like sometimes he judges other people on the panel too and on the show. I'm like, bro, it's not like your takes. It's not like you're just spitting gold out every time you talk, man. Like your stuff's pretty down bad too. But anyway, I agree with you, Hervé. I would welcome an Hervé Renard signing, 100%.
And I mean, let's be honest. Like these American players, they need a kick in the ass. I'm sorry, but like the way they were playing against Uruguay, the way they were complaining, they need to get focused back in the game. And I think a guy like Herb could have definitely they need someone to yell at them. Everyone, you know what? Some of the best things in the world is sometimes you just need a good ass chewing. Like you just need somebody to yell at you for no apparent reason. It helps you with the adrenaline. So I mean, like I definitely think Herb Renard would be a great addition to and I think it's very realistic. And plus, he speaks English sort of, and so I think it would be a good fit to him. And I think it would be different. It's a European manager. I think that it checks off the boxes. We need different mentalities, but the reason why U.S. Soccer won't get them, and it's kind of similar to what happened with Jurgen Klinsmann, is just that they're bigger.
Yeah.
They're not gonna fall in line with what U.S. Soccer wants. They want to see this federation improve. Jurgen Klinsmann wanted this federation to be better, and what you guys do made him look like a villain.
What they do best.
So, yes, I am a defender of Jurgen Klinsmann. Literally gave us, bro, we lost against Belgium in the World Cup, but you know what? I felt like we won that game because we took Belgium the distance. Maybe not the penalties, but we went pretty far with Belgium. The prime golden generation Belgium. So, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but that tip of the hat and also Tim Howard was him that day. So I just wanna and then Julian Green, probably the positive time we once saw Julian Green. Chris Wondolowski probably maybe was like, maybe we should have never called that guy up. But I love you, Wando. But yeah, so all right. Obviously, who do you really think US Soccer is gonna hire?
We're going to want to hear this, man. I think U.S. Soccer is going to do this whole dance, and it's going to be one of two people. It's going to be a retread, well, potentially a retread or someone very similar. It's going to be either a Steve Cherundolo or a Bob Bradley type of signing. Guaranteed. Lock it the fuck in. People who are saying Luis de la Fuente, who are saying like all these other names. I've seen Patrick Vieira's name come up again. Like, all these romantic ideas you can have. Hey man, let your imagination run free for a couple weeks if you want, or for a few weeks. Cool. I mean, have a good time with it, because the USSF's going to clamp down on those dreams harder than college did probably for you. And at the end of the day, what we're going to be left with is someone who's got strong ties to American soccer in some form or fashion. They were a former USMNT player, or they're a former MLS coach or a current MLS coach. They just have some buy-in to what USSF is trying to build and the values, quote unquote, that they think that person stands for. It's going to be that. Like, I can almost put some hard fucking money on it. If it's not one of those two guys, it's going to be someone who has similar qualities. Maybe even someone like reaching deep into the barrel, like an Oscar Pareja or some shit, right? Maybe they even go back to Jurgen Klinsmann and see if he's interested. I don't know. But I really believe like a Bob Bradley or Cherundolo, like just someone who's got strong ties to this federation, who thinks differently than Berhalter, different tactics, different style of play, different man management, but still is on brand with what the federation's looking for.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's going to be Cherundolo. There's nothing, and I think it's also kind of being teased out to everybody. And this is, hey, you know what? It worked with Gregg Berhalter. Maybe we can work again. We could probably scare U.S. Soccer again. But yeah, I think it's gonna be Steve Cherundolo. I hated that press conference where he's like, "I'm the LAFC coach today. I'm the LAFC coach tomorrow. We got training, guys." Bro, like, It's
It is what it is, bro. I honestly, man, I'm so like jaded about the whole process. That's why I just keep saying, like, my expectations are low, guys. They're fucking low. Like, I'm begging for U.S. soccer to shock me. I've been watching this team for too long. It's just like I'm at a point now where I was being a Mexican American, where I was the Mexican Federation years ago. At some point, like, people are who they are, unless there's radical change at the systemic level. People just are how they are, who they are. You can't change them. And I think the Federation thinks a certain way, and they're gonna mask it as we're doing what's best for the growth of the game on this side of the world. It's bigger than the national team, et cetera, et cetera. Say whatever you want. Put lipstick on whatever pig you want to. It's just don't be shocked when we get more of the same, when it's just a different outfit on the same brand or type of person.
Yeah. Or you guys can hire Hervé Renard, and at least we can say we have the hottest coach on the field.
Bro, I'd take Hervé Renard in a fucking second, bro. Like, I really would. People, again, Charlie Davies, bro, I would love to have a debate with you on this, man, because what the crazy part was when he was in like trying to absolutely steamroll Renard, it was like all around losing to Mexico, not getting out of the group, like, kind of what has he done recently, but would not talk about his accomplishments. And we know why. There's an agenda, right? Like, at the end of the day, that man has achieved more than Gregg Berhalter could sniff on the best day of his life. But they will back Gregg as long as the win percentage is high or whatever it's going to be. Like, I don't know, man. At the end of the day, a lot needs to change. Including who we let have a platform and talk about this shit. But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody can blame me for just being somewhat negative about this. I just don't think any real change is going to happen, at least before 2026. Now, after that, maybe they hire someone like a Cherundolo because it's more of like an interim style hiring, right? It's only like a 2-year contract. It's just to get to the World Cup and then see what happens. Maybe that's the play. I don't really know, but I don't believe U.S. soccer is going to fix all of their problems with the next hire. I think that it's going to be another cycle after that.
Yeah, exactly. And it just goes back to what I hope for, and that's that the USA wins despite the managing. I hope that this golden generation can finally just say, you know what, F the Texas, we're just going to do what we're going to do.
Exactly.
And obviously, we're going to see what the next crop of players can do, because, we're going to see them in the Olympics, along with Walker Zimmerman and Miles Robertson for some odd reason. So that's going to be great. But yeah, man, it's great that Gregg Berhalter got fired, but I mean, there's still deeper problems with U.S. soccer, and that's not going to get fixed anytime soon. But unless we see Hervé Renard, and then you're just going to hear me talk about how hot he is. So, I mean, that's a positive. So obviously, Jose, thank you for coming on and talking Gregg Berhalter on this, I guess you could say, super episode of Insert Name FC. Tell the good people what's going on with Golz TV, man. I know you guys got some big new additions going on over there. But what's going on right now with Golz TV?
Yeah, bro, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, guys, go check out Golz TV, man. A lot of new content coming to the platform. We got a lot of people talking about it on both the men's and the women's side of the game. We even have content creators from abroad, man. Guys like No Ratings Podcast coming onto the platform. They see the potential on this side of the world, and they want to start building audiences over here. So whether you're about the Premier League, MLS, women's soccer in general, doesn't matter what it is. Or, again, U.S. men's national team, plenty of those conversations being had on Golz TV, GOLZ.TV. Go check it out. Let me know if you love it or if you hate it. Either way, I'll be grateful. And I appreciate it, man. Hector, thank you.
All right. So we're going to take a break, and then we'll go into Copa America and talking about that shenanigans.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at BellyUpSports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, we can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys. This episode is a lot longer than usual, but it's a huge mega episode, I guess you could say. And another special guest, obviously he came on and we previewed Copa America before I went to El Salvador. And better why not end it with Kelcey Coy from High Low Sports, man. So Kelcey, happy that you're back on, and I'm sure you're happy to talk some more footy.
Oh, every time. I love being here. Obviously the tournament just wrapped up, so it's always fun to come back on, book in something, start it, finish it. Maybe you did a little better than Messi did in that tournament, but as far as starting it and then completely finishing the tournament on the field,
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely talk about Messi. Obviously, because they're in the final. So, what we're gonna do, and it's kind of similar to earlier in this episode where we did with the Euros, which me and Kelcey will essentially do like a draft of takeaways. We'll mention one takeaway that we took from the tournament. We'll discuss it just because of the fact that I have not been covering this tournament. And I think I might keep this format similar to it because I kind of want to develop my own off season in this podcast instead of having to kill myself. So that might be something. It's still something I'm be doing some changes with the podcast, especially try to be more season-ish in some sense. But yeah, so that's what we're gonna do is kind of do the takeaways from the tournament as a whole, and see what comes up from it. So we're gonna do 2 bullet points from each of us, and Kelcey, I'm gonna let you take the first pick here.
All right, so I'm torn between a couple, but I think I'm going to take a little bit of low-hanging fruit here. CONMEBOL needs a lot of work done to both their refereeing and organizational skills. You and I were texting prior to the finals debacle, and I sent you a text saying this might be the worst organized game I've ever seen. We can take that a little further because part of organization is getting quality refs. I think it even goes into that as well. So top to bottom, getting fans in the stadium, keeping fans protected, and then keeping players protected on the field. And on top of that, the grass. But, that's a different conversation. Just organizational in general for CONMEBOL needed a lot better quality. And so that's my number one takeaway because that was awful. Like, that was a lot of talent on the field, just that got the light didn't shine on the field like it was supposed to. It shined on all the other issues that were around the field.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think obviously going to the refereeing, I had a lot of issues with the officiating and of how these matches went out. I think obviously CONMEBOL, if people that aren't really familiar with it, is a lot more physical when it comes to that kind of football, especially a lot of these South American, I would even say Latin American based teams. Sometimes quality is not something that you're going to get as far as passing and technique and technicality. So some teams have to play a little bit more physical to kind of get what they want. Essentially, it's just a continent full of Gattusos is which we're talking about. And I mean, I understand it. I mean, El Salvador is also known for throwing elbows from time to time. But you do what you need to do to at least weaken your opponent so where you can somehow match in some technical aspect. So, and I mean, some people I know have this illusion that Argentine football is this beautiful passing tiki. Yep. It's not that. It's the ugliest form of football of all time, and I respect it. And so I just wanted to point that out. Like it is a lot more physical. I grew up in this kind of style. I grew up watching this kind of style. I know that the Euro is beautiful technical football, but this is what I'm more familiar with. The fan bases are more intense. I will say I'm very biased, but Latin soccer fans are more intense than European. I don't come at me. I know for a fact in El Salvador we fucking throw bags of piss at players. So don't tell me that you guys match our intensity. It's a fucking gang war. Yeah. If you go into bro, there's a city in Mexico, Monterrey has 2 of the biggest teams in the world. You could just be caught in the wrong street wearing the wrong jersey, and we're not even talking about a game. We're talking about just being at the wrong place at the wrong time, wearing the wrong fucking jersey. And so I'm just saying the intensity, in Latin America, I will say, is by far more intense than anything else. And unfortunately, CONMEBOL, who and there's going to be those Euro guys that are going to be trying to say that America did a poor job, which I do agree. I think the U.S. needs to have been more prepared, but this is why it was great to have the Copa America, is to, all right, now we know. Now we know what needs to get better, because I didn't view this as we were going to do a really solid job. But I did think that we're going to take lessons from this and apply it. And I mean, FIFA is going to be more on top of it than CONMEBOL is. I mean, let's be honest, CONMEBOL is not necessarily the standard of confederations. So
Yeah, no, it is. You're exactly right. And when I'm talking about the organization side, it is definitely down to the CONMEBOL side of things, because when you get down to it, it really is like, yes, the CONCACAF nations were involved. Yes, it was held in the U.S., but it was actually put together by CONMEBOL. It is every single time, no matter where it's played at. And so down to decision makings for staffing, decision makings for ticket prices, all of that is CONMEBOL regulated. And so that's always worth mentioning here, is that all the issues for fans were down to lack of security being paid for by CONMEBOL at these stadiums, which is something to consider when you talk about the U.S., Mexico, Canada paying for the World Cup in 26. But it does shine some light on some potential issues for when the entire world is coming to the U.S. in 2 years. That's a little nerve-wracking. And you mentioned Gattuso, by the way. It's a whole continent full of Gattusos. I'll add in, it's a whole continent full of Gattusos, and it's fitting you're wearing a Lakers jersey, because the other half are a bunch of LeBrons in the way they flop. So, I'll leave that alone, though.
Fair enough. I've been actually talking to some people about basketball. Maybe if I get back on Corner Booth, I might mention my thoughts on as far as where my basketball fandom is going to go. But I will say this. This was, for me, this was more of a, I guess you could say, if you guys are fans of Bar Rescue, this was the stress test. You know, we saw how we did under the pressure. Clearly, we did not expect Colombians to be, going through vents like it's what's that name of that movie? Shawshank. You know, so like well, actually, no, I kind of did see it coming.
I don't think I would have ever expected that at a professional
we host
stadium.
so many Mexican games. People have tried. This isn't new that people try to sneak into games. It's happened it happens in concerts. I mean, what was it? Lollapalooza, notorious for people hopping fences to go to those concerts. I mean,
Carrying alcohol on the other side too, and then digging it out on the other side when we get over.
If you're from Houston, people from Houston, you guys know how poorly Astroworld panned out from Travis Scott. So I mean, like, don't make it seem like it's just it's just, once again, people and Lollapalooza, and I mean Astroworld. We haven't seen Astroworld in a while, but Lollapalooza is something that happens yearly, and we still have that same issue. I think it was just, once again, Colombians. I don't want to just say the Colombians. I think there were some Argentinians as well, but unfortunately there was just a lot of yellow that we saw from the footage. But they were attacking the gates, getting, trying to sneak through the police and all that. And once again, I think when FIFA takes over, it's going to be a lot stricter. It's going to be more secured. So I don't necessarily worry too much about the World Cup. The grass issue, CONMEBOL, if they really wanted to, they could have. They could have told the U.S., we need to get this going before we have Copa America. They didn't. And
waited too long. Way too long.
Yeah.
And it's all organizational processing for it. It's, it's in the weeds when you talk about the, what was on the field, but like, at the same time, it's part of what puts on a good event. So for me, that's why I'm like, organizational needs needed to be met earlier or more.
And also,
prominently.
no offense to the MLS fans, but no one wants a Copa America match in freaking FC Cincinnati Stadium or in.
Well, I don't know. Actually, out of all the stadiums, that might be one I wouldn't mind in.
I mean, attendance base. Like,
CONMEBOL
is not going to win much money. If anything, those ticket prices are going to be. A lot more higher than it already was. But like I said, I totally get it. I think for at least for U.S. soccer, there's we know what our floor is, because I don't think there's a lot of positive to take from Copa America. So we at least have a better idea. You still have 2 years to prepare the stadiums to be up to FIFA standard, and do the proper security measurements. I would probably say, like, I'm trying to think of how it was done in other places, but I feel like if you have like maybe another check-in point for tickets instead of near the stadium.
They did this in the Euro Cup, finals, UEFA Champions League finals. I think it was 2 years ago.
UEFA, before you get to your point, Kelcey, UEFA, like, let's not pretend what happened with the Liverpool Real Madrid final. I like
there
that.
It is. Thank you.
That's
exactly where I was going to. They had multiple checkpoints.
So Europe, get off your fucking high horse. That happened.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly the game I was going to talk about, because they had like 3 checkpoints you had to go through and show your tickets, but it still caused an hour. I believe it was an hour delay to get into the French stadium. Was it Parc des Princes? I think is where it was at. And so yeah, that alone it just shows you it can work. The problem is you got to open the gates earlier, so people will start going through 3 checkpoints earlier, so they can actually get in the stadium in time. And yeah, that's a whole nother issue. But yeah, there's ways to do it. Obviously, you see in the NFL every Sunday in the fall, but they'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's a really good one. My talking point, and you know what? I have to apologize to Canada. We all said our piece. We thought this team was gonna get grouped. I really thought Chile was gonna bring it in this tournament. They brought something. Not necessarily a game, but they brought something. As well as Peru. I don't think those were easy matchups per se for Canada, but still, to handle their business against them, and then to make it to get not only get out of the group, but then get into the semifinal, to go and have a second shot at Argentina. Applause to Canada, and honestly, applause to Jesse Marsch, for him to be able to get something out of this team. Obviously another reason for me to want to just kind of be more mad at U.S. soccer, because obviously, Jesse Marsch was a very appealing name for a lot of the American fans. I kind of was mentioning he's a little overrated at times. But, also kind of what I mentioned is Canada and Jesse Marsch need each other right now to perform, because both of them have been receiving a lot of criticism. Once again, Canada, not necessarily, I'm not going to say it's a golden generation of Canadian players, but, you obviously have more and more Canadian influence in Europe, kind of gaining there in Europe. But then also MLS, there's a lot of Canadian players that are getting their names shouted out. And so you kind of have this rise right now with Canada as being now not just that other team from North America. Now they're more as a threat. And Jesse Marsch, a guy that just needs to have a good coaching stint. So I think that with those two together, you had a very positive Copa America, being the fact that you're the only CONCACAF team to get into the semifinal. So I think that there's a lot of positives for Canada. I don't think that they're necessarily still a threat to USA or Mexico. But
sure about that?
I'm kind of regretting saying those words. But
I feel a jersey bet coming on. Is that what I just?
No,
heard?
I'm not. No, I'm still firm with the Vinny though. Maybe I mentioned Vinny, but actually, Ballon d'Or wide open apparently. But yeah, I think respect to Jesse Marsch, he did a great job with Canada. No one in this podcast had any faith in Canada.
Well, hold on. I did.
Did you have him coming out of the group?
Yeah, I had him coming in second in the group.
Oh shit! All right.
Yeah. I don't know how I pulled that one off, because I remember making the comment when we did it, and I was like, this is just going to be a shot in the dark, because who knows, somebody's going to get lucky. I was wrong. They
It's
were
a
actually really good.
it was a very open group for
Yeah.
second place, and I think Chile, Peru, and Canada all had their but kind of thing going on for them. Like, yeah, there's some appeal to each one, but it's not necessarily enough to secure that second place spot. But yeah, no, Canada.
Yeah.
I think of all the CONCACAF teams, have a lot of positive things to come out of it, being that they're the ones that got the furthest in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, this team is shocking for most everybody out there. I mean, if I had placed a bet on Canada getting out, yes, I picked them on the preview show, but I kind of picked them by flipping a couple coins. I mean, it was kind of the odd man out, and it just happened to be the one that had Canada written on type of thing. And that's how it's shocking they got there. I think even you had them as your team with the most pressure going into this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, you look at it, and that's a huge look at what they had to deal with getting into this tournament and starting this tournament. You draw Argentina. We already know all the issues there. Canada absolutely showed up and were ready to perform from top to bottom. And I stand by my Jonathan Osorio take. Still don't trust him at all. But the rest of your team, including Shackelford, who, by the way, just might have made himself a nice little paycheck in the English Championship League, or maybe even a lower tier Premier League team going forward. I don't see why he's not going to get picked up. I mean, he played an excellent tournament. He was all over the field, all the way in. I mean, their third place match alone. I mean, his name popped up for 95 of the 100 minutes he was in the game. It was absolutely impressive, top to bottom for Canada. You said Jesse Marsch is, Jesse Marsch. Looking at Jesse Marsch right now and thinking to where the U.S. national team was looking at him instead of Gregg Berhalter, and you just sit there and wonder what would have happened had the U.S. made the right decision and not hired Berhalter back up and given Jesse Marsch the opportunity. And mind you, we also cut Marcelo Bielsa from the running, who also had Uruguay up there in the third place game. But I digress on that one. But yeah, look, Canada, Jesse Marsch, good for them. Good for Jesse Marsch. I know he said he doesn't want to leave, but if I'm the U.S. Soccer Federation, I'm opening a blank check and handing it over to him, being like, sir, time to come make the changes you want to happen to U.S. soccer, because what else you got to lose right now? Jurgen Klopp already said no. So, yeah, Canada, though, if he stays, this team continues to perform, stays healthy. Alphonso Davies continues on his trajectory where he's at. I think this team is bound for greatness in CONCACAF. I'd even say right now they're a competitor for the top three. I mean, I'd say they're probably number one right now as far as most competitive CONCACAF team, because given the U.S. doesn't have a manager, given Mexico's crashing and burning.
Also, Jimmy Lozano also got fired. So
yeah. So at this point in time, there's not very many positives coming out of CONCACAF teams, and I'd say Canada's the number one right there for me. There's superstars everywhere else, but Canada's so good.
No, you have a valid point. I think I'm just trying to be biased for as a U.S. fan, but not Canada's.
That went out the window after game 2.
That's true. That's very fair. No, yeah, you're right. Jesse Marsch. I will say this. I feel like there's gonna be a gratitude. Like he's gonna be very grateful to Canada for giving him his opportunity. Like I mentioned, he needed a bounce back. Canada needed, and you mentioned Alphonso Davies, and I think Alphonso Davies obviously has to be the leader of this team. Crepo, solid goalkeeping. I think a lot of the structural defense that we saw from Canada is also probably a fair reason as to why they made it far to all the way to the semifinal. But the other thing that I kind of want to mention as well is just Jonathan David finally, I feel like, is finding his groove with Canada. And so I think that's something that's a big plus for them. I know that he kind of had to play second fiddle to Kyle Larin for quite some time. But I think he's definitely finding his groove now with Canada, which I think that's a very important thing for Canada.
Yeah, I think you're right, and he's huge for moving forward for them. One guy I think that team really needs to step up and really start performing. Tajon Buchanan, obviously getting injured in the knockout stage there, but nonetheless, as far as talent goes, he has all the talent to play. He just never seems to be able to put it in the Canadian team. It's similar to what we saw with Jonathan David up until this tournament. It felt like yes, the man is talented. Yes, he's playing at a top French league team for Jonathan David, but he was never able to put it together. And now we actually see him putting it together. And I think Tajon Buchanan is the next one where I look at and I'm like, this guy needs to something needs to happen for him to do well. And then an unsung hero for that team, man, Kone. I think what he was able to do in the midfield and helping to drive the attack forward as that kind of that second, third man getting into the box, that was impressive. And just kind of marshaling everything. He was on a pivot in the midfield. So, playing box to box legitimately, it was impressive to see. And he's a young guy who's still growing into his own talents, had a great goal in the third place game. But beyond that, it was a lot of his talents, a lot of his tackles that helped that team out. So, yeah, Canada's got a lot of bright spots. So I don't know. As a fan of another team in CONCACAF, I'm a little nervous about dealing with Canada on September 4th, I think is when the U.S. plays. So, yeah.
Is that Nations League again?
If so, we're getting knocked out game one.
We don't have World Cup qualifiers to worry about anymore. But yeah, so all right. Yeah, Canada. Applause to them. Kelcey, what's your second takeaway from Copa America?
Yeah, I think it's time to rip the Band-Aid off. We've alluded to it. We've talked a little bit about it. I'll be the one to say it. U.S. men's national team hitting the big red button and going full reset.
You can throw the other CONCACAF team if you want there into this one as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think we do need to put both of them in the same category here. Just the CONCACAF explosion, and not in the good way. It is the negative CONCACAF explosion. Like you said, Mexico losing their head coach, crashing out of that team, out of this Copa. The U.S. I have no words for what just happened with the U.S. too. So those two, and I imagine how I feel about the U.S. team is exactly how Mexican national team fans feel about that team.
I think we're legitimately the Spider-Man meme. I think we're literally the Spider-Man meme with Mexico. All the complaints that the U.S. fans have about the U.S. men's national team, you can literally have the same conversation about the Mexican national team. As a matter of fact, I think people are even having those discussions of, man, that 2002 U.S. men's national team will mop the floor out of this current U.S. men's national team. And I'm sure that they're also saying, man, that 2002 Mexican national team would have mollywopped this current Mexican national team. It is, it's kind of crazy, and I know we were kind of not necessarily. No one was really blinded. No one was happy about the Nations League victories. No one was happy about the Gold Cup victories. It was just kind of this. Here's this shiny thing that we achieved, even though it was very underwhelming the entire process through. Mexico hasn't looked like Mexico in years. U.S. the question is, when are we finally going to see this golden generation? If it is the golden generation, finally look like it. And then I have my doubts about this generation, because of the way that they played with Berhalter, and then BJ Callahan just ruined everything that Berhalter had, because the second BJ Callahan stepped in as interim manager, this team played like the best football, and I'll say football because that's exactly how they played. It was the best football I've ever seen from this generation of U.S. national team players. It was just fluid. It was fun. They were dominating.
It was attacking.
It was great. And then obviously Berhalter was hired back on, which forced Callahan to play stupid Berhalter ball. And so yeah, and we saw the glimpse of it, and then Berhalter with his stupid bounce passes had to come back. So,
yeah, it's wild to me that you look at Berhalter's record. The only team he beat that we should have beat or shouldn't have beat at any point in time in his tenure was Mexico, which is wild. But that tells you how bad Mexico was. To put the shoe on the other foot and to look at the Mexican national team for a second. The Mexican national team, since Jordan Morris came off the bench in 2016 and scored 2 goals, and we heard Dos a Cero every single time they met up afterwards, ever since that game, Mexico has just not looked good. And obviously in that game, there was a lot of changing points for Mexico, right? They got rid of the old guard. You lost Guardado. You lost a lot of other talent in that team. The only one that really stuck around was Ochoa. And from there, you slowly evolved and seen the desperate nature of Mexican soccer kind of come to the forefront of the national team to the point where they're not giving managers more than 3 games in some cases, let alone giving them a year or 2 years to build something within that team. They're I mean, what was it? One of them was a game and a half, and he got fired because of whatever reason they want to come up with. 3 games for another manager, and then it's not been good.
I'm actually impressed how long Jimmy Lozano.
Yeah, it was the first time in what, almost 7 years we saw a guy last longer than a year. It's wild to consider, and it sucks too because as a Jersey fan, Mexican jerseys are some of my favorite, even despite the rivalry. So I don't get to see that jersey shining out. Now it's looked at like, all right, well, we're gonna burn these jerseys because this is just awful. Let's wipe this and flush the memory bank. And so, you look at Mexico and look what they're doing. They have talent. They have talent playing in top teams in the top leagues in the world, all across the board. Obviously,
and you're
Lozano
coming
back.
And you're going to see some other players also go to Europe. I know Chino Huerta is a name that is linked to. I forgot what league he's going to, but he's linked to Europe.
Italy. Wow. Italy, if I'm not mistaken. He's looked one of the Serie A teams is looking at him.
So I mean. So there's positives that a lot of the young, specifically the young Mexican players are getting at potential moves to Europe, which is something that I think the Liga MX and the Mexican Federation need to do a little bit of a better job of making sure that it helps the teams out when they get these transfers in for some of their top players, but it also helps the league. I mean. I've praised Guardado for a very long time. Actually, has been one of my personal favorite players growing up to watch him play. And once again, I always say he's probably the best representation of what a Mexican player can do in Europe, and he's done a very good job. Like I said, the dude's a legend at Real Betis. So
I mean, adding Rafa Marquez into that generation as well.
Rafa Marquez as well, and I think for a good while with Mexico, you always had the next man up, the next guy up for Mexico. You lose a Rafa Marquez, you get trying to think of a.
Actually, I think they replaced Rafa with in the CDM role a little bit more with Guardado later in Guardado's career, technically. So
well, I mean, Guardado. Obviously you lose a Torrado, and you get a Hector Herrera. You lose a Omar Bravo, and you get a Chicharito. Yeah, and you lose a Osvaldo Sanchez and you get a Memo Ochoa, and unfortunately, there hasn't been any of those names that we've been seeing. There's some guys that were like, hey, that guy may be good. We just need to see him play more. I think Alexi Vega, has shown his worth. I think people need to stop dissing that man. He's done a very good job. I've been someone that has watched his career because just seeing him in Liga MX, initially playing with Toluca and then going to Chivas and then going back to Toluca. The guy needs to go to Europe. He needs to go to Europe. I think he's more than capable of it. Unfortunately, Tecatito just never lived up to, not so much of his quality. It's just because of injuries happening for him. But, we missed out on the Raul Jimenez era. And that's not necessarily Mexico's fault. That's just what happened to him. But you have some players with some high potential. Santi Jimenez, a name that I'm sure is linked to some big next big move.
Should be linked to a lot of big moves, honestly. Just name a team and they're going to open their book, it seems like.
So, he's a name. I think he's someone that Mexico needs to build around and getting those players to that next generation of players, whoever that's going to be. Did we see some here in Copa America? I think we did. If there's some positive for Mexico, is I think that we did see that there is some players ready to represent L3. And we also know maybe we need Edson Alvarez to be in the midfield, not as a center back. That's just me. But
yeah, that would help out. But no, and then on the flip side, obviously we talked the U.S. and who's not aging out players right now. And that's the thing is with the U.S. is your players are now entering 26 in what is the prime of their supposedly playing careers. You mean maybe even subprime, like just prior to their primes for some of these guys. Look at the Aronson brothers as an example. Any one of the strikers is entering. They're going to be 26 when this World Cup comes around. The talent's there. It's just like you mentioned, BJ Callahan. The difference between BJ Callahan and Berhalter is the fearlessness that they played with in the attack with Callahan. And then with Berhalter, he's so focused on possession and tactics, it put the players in a position to be scared attacking them. They did not attack. And it's similar to, we've seen a lot of different nations go through this, where you have a change in manager, change in philosophies. And it's almost like a breath of fresh air when somebody like BJ Callahan came in, and to see him do what he did and then be relegated back to playing scared, tactically based possession football, when this team is not built for that. And if anybody questions my thoughts on that, go back and listen to any one of the appearances I've had on this talking about the U.S. men's national team. The best ability that any U.S. men's national team has is that they run faster than everybody, and their stamina is a top notch. And so their athleticism is well above the majority, if not almost all, of the countries out there that they're going to be facing. And that talent, to be able to use that, is what made 2002 great. It's what made 2006 teams competitive. It's what made 2010 a good World Cup run in South Africa. But the difference being, in this team, the athleticism was there, but they weren't allowed to use it in the attack. And so now you look at the future. Obviously, they're bringing in a manager. Can that manager take advantage of the athleticism on par and maybe not make it so tactic focused with these kids who are able and willing to play smart, fluid football if they're given the opportunity? And I hate that Jurgen Klopp said no, not happening, because he loves athletic players. It's what makes him so good. So if there's a manager out there that can do that,
he's just hitting a sabbatical. So
yeah, he's taking a break. He's a well-deserved break, by the way. But I wish he would come to the U.S. But obviously that's a different conversation. It's just, now if you're the U.S., you got to look for the future. Mexico, now you have to figure out your identity as you replace these players and get new guys in. The U.S. just needs a coach to come in to make the pieces work. So two different stories there on what needs to be done, but at the same time, this explosion in the Copa was just awful.
Yeah, I mean, that there's going to be a lot of questions with CONCACAF, obviously. Canada, USA, and Mexico, no worries about qualifying for the World Cup. Yeah. They're in it. They're hosting it. I think to go and kind of segue into my final takeaway is it's going to be interesting to see who are those three teams that will be representing CONCACAF along with USA, Mexico, and Canada. I know this is Copa America, this is CONMEBOL, and we should probably be talking about more of the CONMEBOL teams. But I think that, Panama continuing to improve every year, it seems like, it's an exciting thing to watch for them. Obviously they did what they needed to do. They won their matches. They got the surprise of the century in beating USA. And then they did I think that's the thing when you just go back to the U.S. for just a tiny bit, but the U.S. they were supposed to win the games they were supposed to win. We knew no one was expecting them to beat Uruguay, even if they were able to get a draw. No one was expecting a victory from Uruguay. What was expected was to win the matches they were supposed to win. They're supposed to beat Bolivia. Normally, you should be able to beat Panama, and you didn't get the result. And some people will say it's Tim Weah's fault, but I don't think it was Tim Weah's fault by any means. It's just a discipline issue. It's
a management issue.
In the management issue.
Well, wait, sorry. It's a discipline issue that stems from a manager not managing players. Sorry, let me extend that a little bit further.
So you couldn't hold your lead when you were down a man, which everyone knows. You're down a man. You have the 1-goal lead. Just do what you can to keep the ball away from the net. And sloppiness. And that's why Panama was able to pounce. It wasn't for the fact that Coca Carrasquilla got a red card. That dude was just playing around in the midfield. He was having his day. And I mean, I get to give props to Coca Carrasquilla just because he plays for Dynamo. But I mean, the dude was just drawing the strings.
Oh yeah.
And so it's gonna be interesting to see who gets to come out for CONCACAF. And so that's my thing that I'm really intrigued about what's gonna happen with CONCACAF, because now it's wide open.
Yeah, it is. And it's scary. If you look at the teams that are going to fill this, because you have, in my opinion, I'd say 5 teams that are vying for 3 spots. Obviously, you mentioned Panama. You also have Jamaica, who didn't make it out of their group in this one. Then you also have a team that didn't even make the Copa, which is Honduras, that just sits there and floats out there, but is always a pain in the neck when it comes to qualifying situations. And then Costa Rica, right, is still...
I'll even throw Guatemala.
Yeah. And so there's still teams that can cause problems for CONCACAF. I guess trying to figure out the next 3, if you will. This has always been the problem in CONCACAF. You had your big 3, then you had the hexagonal, which is like the rest of the groups, basically. And this is always going to be the interesting thing, is what comes out of it. And, you don't have a team in that second, third set that's like a Venezuela was in this tournament, where they surprised everybody and did well, because the next 3 teams are, they have 1 or 2 guys that play overseas, but then everybody else is just kind of fill-ins, right? That's kind of how it feels. And I don't mean to slight any one of these teams if they're listening to. I'm not slighting you, Reggae Boys. I don't need any the trash talk you gave to Chad Johnson. But at the same time, you look at their teams and their talent is there. It's evident, but it's just, all right, who's going to show up to put it in? To put in the work for 90 minutes come game time is going to be the question.
I mean, who fills in for Leon Bailey?
yeah, really. Who does? And so that's always going to be the question when you look at Jamaica, when you look at Panama, when you look at any one of the teams we just mentioned, Honduras. It's going to be who shows up consistently for 90 minutes over 3-4 game stretch to get them qualified for CONCACAF. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because not only do they have to qualify, but then they got to show up and do something in the group stages. And that's, can they do it? We'll see. Because in the World Cup, CONCACAF teams do not have a high rate of success outside of the U.S. and Mexico. So that's something to consider. Now, U.S., Mexico, Canada get the auto bids. Can somebody step up and do well? That's going to be a question.
All right. So before we get to the final, biggest surprise from the tournament. Who is
Venezuela.
That's Venezuela.
Venezuela. Oh yeah, 100%. I kind of guessed that one as in we talked about it when we were looking at a dark horse, and I was like, oh, Venezuela has stupid odds if somebody wants to place $1 on it to get out of the groups. Yeah, that surprised me, just top to bottom. Their ability to do what they needed to do in the right times, and where we just talked about teams crashing out like Mexico and the U.S. and Jamaica not making it through. Team like Venezuela snuck in that Group B with Ecuador. I mean, that's impressive to do. It's not an easy feat. At one point in time, they're leading that group in the final game. How wild is that? When they were the 3rd worst team in odds to win the tournament and 3rd worst team to make it out of a group stage, and yet here they are leading the group in the final game of the group stages, and have a chance to lead that team, get out of there with a first position and not have to face an Argentina or a Uruguay or a Brazil potentially. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way, but still. You look at Venezuela, that's a hell of an accomplishment. You got to give them credit where credit is due at this point in time.
Yeah. I would say Panama is my biggest surprise. I didn't necessarily think much of them, even though I've praised Panama plenty of times on this podcast. But, I guess just because I thought they were in a group with Uruguay and the U.S., that I kind of just pushed them out of the equation. But they are a tough team. They are definitely not afraid of a fight. And I mean, if it wasn't for a controversial goal decision from the referees, that Colombian game, I'm not saying they were going to beat Colombia, but that Colombian game would have not been as comfortable as it was for Colombia. So I think Panama definitely fought well above their weight class. And even the way they played against Uruguay was still commendable in my opinion. So I think Panama, a really good surprise, especially if you're a CONCACAF fan, which there's not that many of. So,
yeah, it's just fearless, right? That's the one thing we can say about both those teams, Venezuela and Panama. They're fearless against the big dogs. You don't just march into a match against Mexico, a match against Jamaica, and a match against Ecuador and cower in a corner if you're Venezuela. They actually attacked and they did what they needed to do. And on the flip side, you mentioned Panama versus what they did against Uruguay and Colombia. I mean, they weren't afraid to take on 2 of the most powerful attacking teams in this tournament. And, it almost worked out for them at the end of the day. You said bad decision. Go back to the organizing with good refs. Maybe you get a better decision there. So,
all right, biggest disappointment.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the U.S. I think losing to Panama is as good of a surprise as the Panama team was. I'm gonna say that's the biggest disappointment because you're the first host nation for Copa to not make it out of the group stages. That's disappointment enough.
Yeah, that's a good one. I try not to talk about like other podcasts specifically, a certain, I guess network, if you will. Just because it's not like that belly up prevents me from talking about that one that's owned by a guy that his initials are DP by any means, but it, obviously there is a podcast I listen to that's from that network that
we had a guest actually recently from that network on one of our network shows from Belly Up. So
was it Cruz?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is he still there?
He was. I don't know if he's still there technically. Anyways.
But yeah, I mean, part of my take is actually one of my biggest influences on this podcast. But obviously, I give props to PFT trying to explain what's wrong with the U.S. men's national team to Big Cat, because Big Cat just thinks that maybe the U.S. team the players just suck. But and I commend PFT for trying to like explain that it is in fact Berhalter that's preventing this team because we have our golden generation. But yeah, it's just ridiculous about a team that now you're talking about kind of going back to those older teams where they, there was no clear pathway for a player. There's no academies. Like your option is to ball out in high school and get a scholarship to one of the very small handful amount of Division I soccer programs that's offered in the U.S. and then pray to God that you get a contract from such. And I mean, some of these guys, the MLS wasn't even a thing yet.
Yeah,
so,
or your parents had enough money to send you to these special ODP teams. Like those are your two options.
Like the pathway has never been more clear, and this is the generation of players that got to see the pathway. I'm not talking about MLS Next and all that. That's we'll see what that generation is to come. Obviously, Kevin Sullivan is the name that we're all thinking of, but this generation, the pathway where there's academies everywhere, there's clubs everywhere now. I mean, Hershey, Pennsylvania. Who would have thought that Borussia Dortmund could find that kid, Christian Pulisic? But like, this is now where the pathway has been more clear than ever. The guys that like Alexi Lawless, Kobe Jones, Clint Dempsey, they never saw this kind of pathway. They had to grind it out and just hope that they get discovered. And some may argue that Clint Dempsey got a better pathway than Alexi Lawless because he got drafted into the MLS. So,
who thought?
The pathway has been more clear than ever. It's there. So, this is the generation where we're seeing that, like, now the U.S. kind of cares more about soccer. So, like, what do we see from it? And we're now seeing guys playing in Juventus, playing in AC Milan, playing in I don't know where Balogun plays in Monaco. You have guys that are dual nationals choosing the U.S. in Yunus Musa and Balogun. You have it's now to the point where it's definitely not the player pool.
Yeah.
And so I think whoever becomes the next manager for the U.S. men's national team, actually before you hear this part, you're gonna hear me and another guest talk about the Berhalter situation. But I'm hoping that it's not going to be a certain MLS coach right now, because a certain soft-spoken coach that likes to complain about MLS, even though he's literally gifted one of the best MLS teams that are humanly possible. I'm sure no one can figure out who I'm talking about from that.
He would have been great prior to Berhalter too. It's the best way I can say it. He would have been okay. I would have been okay with him then. Not now.
Yeah, the only difference is that this coach has an MLS Cup and Berhalter doesn't. Um,
No, Berhalter has an MLS Cup. It was gifted to him by Giassi Zardes and
he
that
was
squad.
not. No, they won after.
Was it really? Oh wow! I'm thinking he in his final year
Caleb
with
Porter won the MLS
was it Caleb?
Cup.
I thought it was after Caleb left and they played. It was when they played Portland.
No, they
Wow.
they shellacked Seattle.
That's right. You're right. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
Shoot,
Tells you-
I'll take Caleb Porter. I'm sure he wants to get out of New England, but
Yeah, I mean that'd be okay.
but yeah, no, so yeah, U.S. But for me, biggest disappointment is Brazil.
Oh,
This team literally has literally have three, like their depth chart, like even their third string players should be able to compete in this tournament. And I don't like the rumors of Ronaldinho not wanting to watch Brazil. I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't know, but this is not the same. Funny enough, the same complaints that people are making about USA and Mexico, you could probably say the same thing about Brazil now, because of the fact that some may argue that the 2002 Brazil would have mopped the floor out of this Brazilian team because it's not Joga Bonito. It's not Joga Bonito. There's no intensity in the final third. And it also doesn't help that like Endrick, who I know we were gifting this 18-year-old basically the keys to the world now.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I rate this tournament for him, but it was quiet is probably the nicest way to say it.
he existed for what 35 total game minutes. I think it was 35.
If there's one positive for Brazil is that this doesn't necessarily hurt Vinny's chances of winning the Ballon d'Or, but it also didn't help him.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's interesting to me that Brazil continues down the same path. Yes, Yoga Bonito and we grew up on those videos. We've talked about it before, and what that meant for Brazil was amazing. But Brazil over the years has always had this kind of same problem that just seems to exist forever, and that's that they hold on to center backs like they're going out of style. They keep them for forever and don't let them go. And what ends up happening is you end up in a tournament like this where you're playing a team that has attacked these center backs for the last 7 years. Like every one of the strikers on the other team has attacked these center backs for the last 7 years, and they know their exact weaknesses, and they know they've gotten a step slower. Obviously, it's not as bad as if they had thrown Thiago Silva out there again, but it was still not good. So you look at this team, look at this Brazilian team, you just wonder when they're going to decide to like, hey, maybe we should think about like, I don't know, making somebody who like a Casemiro, instead of into a CDM, let's make him into a center back. Obviously not talking Casemiro at this point in time in his career, but somebody in that same build to slide back there and play full time in the back. We don't need another David Luiz back there because that was a train wreck waiting to happen. But at the same time, if you're Brazil, your attack was good, but there was nothing to stop the other team from attacking you at all. It was literally just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We hope Vinny and Rodrigo and insert other striker here can figure this out for us, because that's really what they had. And that's just never going to help anybody in a Brazil jersey. So yeah, Allison, I mean, he's also getting older, so that's going to be a problem they need to figure out as well. Does he stay until the next World Cup? I don't know. But yeah, Brazil definitely disappointed. I think that's safe to say, but it could have been worse if Vinny didn't pull off some magic there at times. And it could have been worse if Rodrigo didn't show up for a game or two. But yeah, that team definitely got built out by its attacking talent yet again. It's just a matter of, all right, now you got to figure out the rest of the squad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, look, I'm not going to be a hater by any means of this player, but I mean, when Danilo's your captain,
When Danilo's getting playing time out of all
Not
the
only is he-
Brazilian
Not only
players.
is he getting playing time, but he's also the captain of this team.
Yeah.
I feel like we're disrespecting Marquinhos a little bit. Even though he's definitely getting up there in age. I mean,
He might be the least concerning of the older generation of
yeah,
defenders.
I feel so bad for Marquinhos, bro, because it's like this guy. I want to see him win. Like for the sake of Marquinhos, I just want to see that guy win. Even like yeah, he plays for the evil empire in PSG, but like I just want to see that guy win something worth of value. Not. So
Yeah.
I pull for Marquinhos. I think he's a very well respected player. Yeah, crazy to me that he didn't get the captaincy. I don't know who voted for Danilo. But
Eder Militao. That's who voted for Danilo. That's exactly who voted for him.
all right,
I
so we
don't
need
know.
to take voting privileges away from Militao. But yeah, so insane. But yeah, Brazil, and I think it's because of such a high standard that a lot of people have for Brazil.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also where it becomes disappointing. I mean, yeah, they had to go up against Uruguay. It went down to penalties. It's not really their fault at that moment, but you couldn't win your group out. I think you saw it when it came time to play against a more real opponent like a Uruguay and like a Colombia. They just didn't have the firepower for those kind of teams, and that's something that's alarming, especially if you want to see the Canaries win another World Cup.
Yeah. It reminds me of when Robinho was the headliner, if you will, for Brazil with Lucio at center back. Because you remember, anyone who remembers that team, there was nothing down the spine of that team because it was like just after Kaká, Alexandre Pato was supposed to be the star striker, but he was injured. And then there was really nothing else on that team. You had Dani Alves out there, but then beyond that, you didn't really have a whole lot. And so your talents were never in the center of the pitch, which is where you need to be strong in attack and defense.
It was just like a young Oscar too in the mix too.
Yeah, that was Oscar prior to his let me go to China and take the bag and just fall into an abyss. It was a young time for that team, but and that was early William too. William, yeah. So and that was like trying to figure it out is really what they ended up trying to do. And obviously Neymar came along and helped that team succeed. But who's going to be the next one? Obviously Vinny's there, but who's going to help Vinny? Vinny's playing out wide. I mean, that's not going to lead you down the center of the pitch. You need to strengthen up the center of that pitch. And they have talent in that team. It's just a matter of getting them playing time in their club and domestic leagues so that they can transition into the Brazil team and have success. Because that's always going to be the concern, right? Is can they get time at whatever club team they're playing at? Because half of that team is playing in Saudi Arabia at this point in time or in Qatar. And the other half is sitting on the bench at an Everton or West Ham or Aston Villa. Like it's not helping anybody until that team gets regular playing time.
Yeah, exactly. But all right, man. There is a final. It happened. As a matter of fact, it literally just finished before we started recording. So it is still fresh in our heads. Obviously we did talk about what happened with the final as far as what happened prior. There was a delay, which actually worked out in favor for me because I was actually working. So I didn't actually get to watch the Euro. So as I was like trying to rush myself to get home, I didn't have to worry. I was able to eat my dinner and actually kick back and watch the game. So I guess there's that. There's a win for me. So thank you, Colombia, and for that case. But aside from that, man, I think the theme of this game was just who wants it more.
Yeah,
I think it was both a defensive masterclass. Both goalkeepers did an amazing job. I think spectacular saves on both ends. My brothers, they my family just came and visited like last week, and we're watching these matches, and my brother's over here being a hater of Messi, which I'm like, dude, you're 38 years old. There's no need for you to be beefing with a millionaire, especially
with a B.
with a billionaire that I'm sure his life goes on while you're thinking about him. So let that sit. I was like, you're a father too. Like you shouldn't be doing this. Your rival should be that kid that just keeps hitting your trash can. You know, like that's where you should put your energy on, not a grown man, you know.
Not a 36-year-old who's got 2 kids and just trying to enjoy his life in Miami.
Yeah. So that's there's my hey bro. But yeah, no, like I kind of going into this game though, like I mean, I think both teams played very Dibu. What I was saying was we were watching Argentina play, and I said Dibu, in my opinion, Emi Martinez. If you guys don't know that's his nickname is Dibu. I think I think right now he's the world's best goalkeeper. Don't look at Aston Villa because that's a terrible terrible statistics over there because his back line is terrible. But when it comes to big game moments internationally, I'll be honest with you. I don't think Argentina would have had the success that they had if it wasn't for Dibu, because since he took over at goalkeeper, Argentina has looked significantly better. So, you know, another positive of Leno's injury is that Dibu was discovered for Argentina.
Yeah, definitely big fan of Emi. As we've talked about 1,001 times, including after the last World Cup. Big fan of just the way he just handles himself in goal is impressive. His demands of his own center backs, and I think people underestimate the other parts of goalkeeping. Yes, goalkeeping is keeping ball out of net. That is the simplest form of goalkeeping. What makes a good goalkeeper, a great goalkeeper, is the ability to do that, plus demand greatness out of your center backs, out of your wing backs, out of your CDMs, and then even out of the great players on your team, like a Messi, like a Di Maria. Simple things like orchestrating where they're going to be at. Obviously, there's not a lot of orchestrating you do with Messi, but just the ideas that you guys are on the same page for an outlet pass that leads to them succeeding and leading to an attack on goal. And Emi, I think, is well and above beyond everybody else. You mentioned don't mention Aston Villa. I will mention Aston Villa because I do think even there, he stands on his head so much that it's very obvious how good of a talent he is. The biggest problem with Aston Villa is they have no defense that he can orchestrate. They don't know what they want to be defensively.
And still manage to get into a Champions League spot.
And still get there every time.
Which was my argument to my brother, because he was like, how many goals is he giving up? I was like, is he going to be in the Champions League this year?
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing better than some of the other world-class goalkeepers. If you listen to audio, it's just, I did the air quotes for you. But no, yeah, Emi's amazing. Goalkeeping in this entire game was amazing. There was a save on the line by Colombia's goalkeeper where he's diving back across goal after the ball bounced around and ended up on the back post. And it was an amazing sliding diving header just to prevent it from going in. Obviously, didn't like the dramatics afterwards of laying on the ball for 10 minutes, whatever. But at the same time, so impressive top to bottom. These two goalkeepers that you saw really kind of step forward for the first time. I guess Emi's obviously had 4 years in stepping forward in the role, but he got a gift by an injury. And on the other end, Colombia's goalkeeper wouldn't have been in this position had it not been for the previous goalkeeper shattering his arm a year and a half ago. And then now, obviously, here he is leading his team in a Copa final. They didn't get a victory, but he did everything in his power.
Yeah, I think for Vargas, who, for him to step in, obviously David Ospina is the name that we all think of, who I believe now is in Saudi Arabia. Yep. But I mean, look, when it comes to Colombia, I mean, they came in, I don't know, I think at that point it was like 27 games unbeaten. I could be wrong on that one, but they 27. But an amazing run. That was one of the teams that we were keeping an eye on. We're like, how long is this streak going to continue? And hey, man, they went up some really good competition to maintain that streak. They had to go toe-to-toe with Brazil. Yes, it was a draw, but still unbeaten. And then, I mean, that semifinal against Uruguay, I mean, it kind of, in some sense, I feel maybe the hardest pathway on the tournament was definitely that side. Argentina got to cruise a little bit, but I feel like because of that, putting all that energy into that game, obviously they also were down a player because Munoz had the red card, so he wasn't able to be available for this match. But I think despite that, though, I mean, we saw a really good performance from two teams that were ready to put everything on it for this match. And I mean, if there's one thing to say about Colombia, their backline, very phenomenal. And then when you look at the other side, their Argentina's backline, very phenomenal. I think to me, honestly, was just the best of both worlds of just seeing good defense, some good brilliant moments of attacking, and great goalkeeping. I think this was a very thrilling 1-0. And which was just funny because everything was pointing Argentina. I mean, not Argentina. Everything was pointing Colombia because you had, first of all, a sea of yellow across the stadium. You got Colombians hopping through vents to get into the stadium. You had Shakira performing at halftime. I didn't watch the performance because I really wanted to shower. Which I'm sure some people watching Shakira wanted to go shower immediately afterwards anyways. And Carol G, see, no one, I have never seen anybody like, hey, we're going to bring this person to sing the national anthem. Like, I have never seen that ever in my life. As far as soccer goes, I know it's a common American thing to do, to bring a celebrity.
Yeah, but it's definitely not an international thing for sure.
So that was interesting. So, and nothing for Argentina.
Yeah. Well, no. Argentina had somebody sing for them. They did have somebody sing. Yeah. There was somebody that sang for both countries, which is the first. But to your point, it's the first time I've seen that ever happen. And also, let's not forget James Rodriguez. Talk about a guy who's had a resurgence in his career. He came from basically fizzling out at your Real Madrid to, well, here he is leading Colombia in a head-to-head matchup against Messi, and it's safe to say that before the injury, he was still more impactful in this game than Messi. And that's wild to think because Messi had far too many misplaced passes, things like that. James had all the ability to get there. He just missed a running mate like what Messi has in Angel Di Maria to really balance things out. There was no Luis Diaz sightings. There were no, can't even think of what was their name of the striker who was starting today? I didn't even think of his name, but there was nothing else for Colombia outside of James. Yeah,
Cordoba was kind of disappointing.
Cordoba, thank you. He was just, it was just non-existent up front. Outside of James really leading the attack, there was nothing creative happening for Colombia other than barreling down the sidelines, which is, hey, it works. I'm not going to fault it, but not enough for Colombia beyond that. But I mean, there were still strings of 20, 30 minutes of just domination from Colombia early in that game. And then 5 minutes later, you have Argentina on the front foot. So yeah, it was back and forth, but it was a fun game. Like you said, fun 1-0. I mean, yes, it started 82 minutes late, but I enjoyed every single 123 minutes of this game because it was so fast paced back and forth.
Yeah, and then obviously the goal, the lone goal that came in extra time from, I would have to say, the greatest redemption arc of all time, because he is also the leading goal scorer of the tournament, the Golden Boot winner, Lautaro Martinez.
Yeah.
This guy was looked as a villain for Argentina. As a matter of fact, a lot of people felt that he was hurting Argentina's chances from winning the World Cup in Qatar. Hurt their chances, and everyone was basically calling him Gonzalo Higuain 2.0. Just not being able to be scoring those crucial goals. I wouldn't even say crucial because, I mean, Argentina, despite the Saudi Arabia game in the World Cup, handled their business and got the job done. But Lautaro Martinez it was like kind of becoming one of those players that in the club level, phenomenal. I mean, captain of Inter Milan, champion of Italy. And then as the second he puts that Argentina jersey, it's just he just disappears. Good. He becomes Gonzalo Higuain. And so and not the good one.
No. Yeah, it's wild to think that the best goal scorer was sitting on the bench for what you'd say 85% of their matches throughout the tournament, and yet the best goal scorer of the tournament is the guy that played the last 10 to 15 to 20 minutes of a match most times. Obviously, this time getting a little extra run because of the extra time, but it's wild that you get 5 goals in. I feel like if I did the math on his time, I might get 120 total game minutes this tournament, which is the exact time that they played this game. Like 5 goals in that time frame is just insane. So yeah, great job for him, coming back and saving this team for sure. Also shout out to DePaul in midfield for Argentina. I obviously give a lot of plaudits to Messi and Di Maria. You said Martinez, but DePaul was everywhere in this final, and I do mean everywhere. And he was mixing it up in the right ways for Argentina, getting people on the other side, on Colombia's side, a little more frustrated than probably they needed to be. So maybe not thinking this clear-headed, but at the same time, he was disrupting, he was distributing, he was doing everything he needed to do to make Argentina as successful as possible, despite Messi going down, despite Di Maria maybe not looking as smooth as possible, despite Julian Alvarez not really being able to get into the game, despite having to deal with James on the other side. DePaul was as dominant of anybody, I think, in this final. And, yes, doesn't get the final goal, but at the same time, his performance, his work is evident of every single minute of this game.
Honestly, I think DePaul, one of the big pieces for Argentina's recent run of success, because you're talking about it now. They won the last Copa America, where Messi finally got his first international trophy, wins the World Cup, and then essentially they just became Spain.
If anyone forgets that La Fiera Roja team.
Yeah, so which is fitting because obviously Argentina wants to be Spanish so bad. So I mean it all correlates together. And now that picture of Messi with Lamine Yamal just holds even more significance for this Sunday of football, because obviously Spain winners of the Euro, and here we are with Argentina. Messi potentially winning his final cup as a Argentine player. I mean, we don't know how he's going to be by 2026. It's still up in the air. But I mean, for players like Angel Di Maria, I feel like this is it for him. But I think if we took anything from Argentina, there is some role players. There is something here where this team is going to be competitive when they lose their GOAT. Which is kind of funny when you think about on the flip side in Portugal, because obviously you can't talk about Lionel Messi without Cristiano Ronaldo, which is apparently who my very much older brother wants to dick ride. So I'll say those words. I don't care. But
they're about the same age.
Yeah. So let that sink in. But anyways, I mean, I would even argue that once Ronaldo leaves, Portugal is in not a bad spot either.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe need to figure out their 9th spot, but I mean, which a lot of people thought was going to be Gonzalo Ramos, but PSG is definitely hurting his confidence. But when you look at these two teams, it's not like when these guys leave, like Portugal is going to be competitive. I think the same thing with Argentina. I'm not expecting to be heavy favorites of every tournament, but they do still have the quality of players. I mean, obviously, McAllister, a guy that they're going to keep an eye on. Enzo Fernandez, another guy to keep an eye on when it comes to Argentina. I mean, Julian Alvarez is still young, so
yeah,
there's still a lot of things with Argentina. And then who knows? In a few years down the road when we see a young Thiago Messi come into
Don't say that. I have hope he's going to I have hope he's going to commit to America. I know he said he's not, They've already asked him the question, and he's what, 12?
Yeah.
But they've already asked him the question of who are you going to commit to, because you have 3 nationalities you can choose. I'm going to commit to Argentina like my dad.
Kids say the darndest things.
Yeah. Can we not? Can we just wait and just see if you like America better first?
USA has a lineup of Thiago Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo Jr.
Saying. It's not just those two. Then you add in a few other Italian players as well, and German national team players, and you might have yourself a squad. But no, I think both teams. Obviously, you mentioned Portugal as the other one, Argentina this side. I think the biggest issue for Portugal that's not really an issue for Argentina is the fear of playing without Ronaldo. Just like you said, they need to fill a number 9 role in Portugal. That's the big issue. But the rest of that team is solid. Maybe one of their best strikers sat on the bench the entire Euros for Portugal, and Diogo Jota. But does he fit into a 9 role? No, he's definitely a left winger. So you still have to figure out what you're going to do with the 9. Will Joao Felix ever pan out is another question. Will playing without Ronaldo help him, which is kind of what it did for Bruno Fernandes, and before, obviously now playing with him really well. And on the Argentina side, this is something we had talked about previously in previous years past when we talked about Argentina going to that World Cup in 22. It was one of the moments where we really talked about it the most is, can Argentina play not in awe of Messi, but in concert with Messi? And you've seen it since really, like you said, Copa, 4 years ago now, 6 years ago, I guess, is how far it's been. And when they won that Copa, going from there to the World Cup where Messi scored 7 goals, but that was really a team performance where Messi was just on the finishing end of the movements, and to this one where Messi was just really playing his part in a working cog machine, and it was kind of impressive to see. And so now you pull Messi out. Can you replace him with somebody of equal, or not necessarily equal talent, but equal understanding of the role? And Di Maria as well. I'd say, because I've long since been a Di Maria stan, that he is one of the most successful Argentinian players to ever play, maybe the most successful Argentinian player to ever play, as far as trophies, wins, all of that goes. And people still won't get on board with that. I should just get a shirt made with it. But anyways, I think that's Argentina's set up a little bit better because their understanding starts younger. Their understanding for that position and for the roles starts younger. It's very much like you said, Spain. It's very much like those 2008 through 2012 Spanish teams where they had a set system that started in the youth stages and worked its way through and did not change no matter how good the players were. And so there is ability, and they have the ability to grow within their own team, within that Argentinian league, which, yes, it is led by only 2 or 3 teams like most of the teams in South America and North America. But nonetheless, these guys have a quick trip, it seems like, every single time to the other side of the Atlantic, and they end up a superstar somewhere. So, yeah, I think Argentina set up pretty well for a lot of growth. Yeah, with or without Messi going forward, but definitely without Di Maria, based off of the comments before the game. And then on the other side, you mentioned Portugal. You got some problems you got to figure out just mentality wise playing with that team, but they won a Euro without Ronaldo on the pitch. That's what I'll say about that. And they couldn't win one with him on the pitch. So,
and now Argentina say they can do that without Messi on the pitch.
Yeah.
So, I think before we wrap this up, obviously, do you feel like we're going to see Messi in 2026?
Yes. I'm going to say yes. It might be in a Luis Suarez role, where we saw Luis Suarez with Uruguay, where it's off the bench. I don't think we'll see Messi starting a match. If we do, it's going to be 60 minutes max. Maybe Andrea Pirlo with Italy is last hurrah. But yeah, I think he'll be there just because Inter Miami is his home now. Miami is his home. America is his home now. His son was born in the United States. I think it's a strong possibility we'll see him. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I think we do see him in 26.
Okay. I mean, I feel the same way. Obviously the emotion that came on him as he had to walk out because of the injury. I I don't necessarily think it's because that was going to be his last World Cup, his last international tournament. I think it was more so just the frustration that he can't be out there for his team. Obviously, a final against a very good Colombian team. But I mean, it was like kind of like an evolution of Argentina from back in 2020 to now, where that Copa America victory, it was the start of this team being able to play for Messi. Yeah. And then 2022 happened, whether you think it was rigged or not. They played for Messi. Then that was the mentality, like, we're going to play for you. We're not going to depend on you. We're going to play for you. And now it's like, it's probably the Master Splinter Ninja Turtles meme where, this team is now in a much better place where Messi could probably take a break, like be able to rest properly, because I think he does have that core of players now.
Yeah. And let's not forget, this man tried to walk away from the Argentinian team in 2018 after the Copa Centenario?
Yeah.
Whatever it was. And so, he got talked back into coming back. Had he not done that, he would have left his career without any trophies. And now he has 2 Copas and a World Cup to hang on to his name for. And at this point in time, I think he's going for a storybook. I think it's a personal, but he's 36 right now, depending injury based, and how he can load manage with the MLS seasons. I don't see a reason why he can't be there in 2 years. Just because there's so much new technology, so much ability. And again, he's not having to travel from Barcelona to Argentina, from Paris to Argentina for any of these matches. Most of Argentina's matches take place within a 6-hour flight from Miami. So unless they're in Seattle and they're playing somebody up in Seattle, that's usually the furthest that they have to go, or they're playing in Europe. And even that's not as far as it was prior to it. So I think we're going to see a lot less of Messi, but I do think there's no reason we shouldn't see him in 2 years.
Yep. But all right, that was Copa America. The good, the bad, the ugly. Probably a lot of ugly. But it's over. The summer of soccer is not over, because we do have the Olympics coming up as well. So I'm like I said, I'm still gonna figure things out. I'll probably when I wrap this show up, I'll probably have like a better concise plan how I'll break it down to you guys. But right now I'm still kind of figuring things out. But I think I will do at least a preview for the Olympics, and then I think maybe similar to how I did it with this year for the Euro and Copa America, where we'll preview it and then recap it, because the Olympics is that's 24/7, man. That's a lot of.
Yeah, we did coverage on the Olympics in 2020, and we did our daily segments on it. And I'll tell you, it is exhausting keeping up with everything. But at least with soccer, it starts a little bit early, so I think it actually starts next week or week after, and then it pretty much wraps up within the first 2 weeks of our first week of the Olympics. So that's always kind of nice.
So that makes my job easier. But but of course, man, make sure you guys check out BellyUpSports, man. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of coverage for the Olympics. I'm sure there's going to be an article written for the Copa America as well, and the Euro. So make sure you guys be on the lookout for that. But Kelcey, man, this is your time to shine. Tell where the people can find you. What's some big stuff that's happening over there at High Low Sports?
Yeah, so good. Glad you mentioned the Olympics. So coming up, we are working on an interview with a very special person that has potentially put together a few Olympics before in their career. Helped out with some hospitality there on the Olympic suites, and how to get involved with getting to the Olympics and what it means to even put on an Olympics. So yeah, we're working on that. Nothing set in stone yet. Hopefully that'll come out by the time the Olympics roll around here in a week and a half. But otherwise, you guys can check us out on all of our social medias at High Low Sports or at high_low_sports on X, formerly known as Twitter. And you can check our shows out live Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern time on any one of your favorite platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. We're there. Or the next day, we have the audio version up by 8 a.m. Eastern time. And that'll be on any one of the platforms you can listen to podcasts. So be sure to check that out as well. A lot of good things coming, and Fantasy Football Expo up in the first week and a half of August 9th through the 12th. So we'll be doing a lot of live stuff there. So definitely check that out as well.
All right, man. Kelcey, always a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, no, I always love to be here, man. Every time I get to talk soccer is always a good day for me.
All right. This is actually the last part of the show, so we'll go ahead and segue over to the conclusion of this episode. So go ahead and check that out.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
Thank you so much, guys. This was an episode that I kind of was hoping wouldn't be as long, but it is what it is. But I think it also works out that way if we're not going to be, at least in the summer, not regularly dropping episodes. At least that's what my plan is. Like I said, I kind of want to make things easier, at least a little bit for me, give myself some sort of break, if that makes any sense. We will also take a break for obviously for Christmas. I think for end of the year episode, we will do the end of the year episode. We'll still do the Roosevelt Spencer Player of the Year award. We'll still do that off of the year. And then for our end of season episode, we'll do something kind of like a little end of the season award ceremony, if you will. Just to make it real nice and pretty for you guys. But yeah, so we'll still have Player of the Year. Like I obviously Edward has to do his singing bet, and that'll be the last time we do singing bet on this podcast, just because I don't want to deal with any copyright issues on the YouTube side of things. But yeah, man. So thank you to Peter, Jose, and Kelcey for coming on and talking with me about this beautiful game that I love so much. Yeah, man, it's been a rough couple. It's been an eventful couple. I won't say rough because that would be disrespectful to El Salvador and to my family. It's been an eventful couple of weeks since last time I recorded. And yeah, so I can't wait. I'm also looking for work. I'm not necessarily trying to stay at my current job. The hours are just way too hectic, and it's kind of most of my days off is just consisting of me sleeping. So I kind of want to have a job where it's not like that, and it's also kind of taking away my time from my family. So we'll see how that goes, man. But obviously I want to give a shout out to Golz TV. Go ahead and check them out, GolzTV. Check them out on Instagram at GolzTV and on Twitter or X at GolZ_TV. See what's going on. Like I said, there's a lot of things happening at Golz TV, so go ahead and check it out, because things are popping over there at Golz. Obviously check out Belly Up Sports, man. If you guys, the Olympics is underway. Obviously MLB baseball, the MLB All-Star game just happened, so we're hitting the second half of the MLB season. So see what the articles are being written about MLB and Olympics and USA basketball, all that good stuff. NFL is we're fairly close to the NFL season being back. So college football, obviously EA Sports College Football is making everybody happy, including myself, because NCAA football is one of my favorite video games to have played as a kid. I still have my copy of NCAA Football 14 that I still play on, and it's just so much fun. But yeah, there's a lot going on. Obviously, soccer is still going on. So go ahead and check out Belly Up Sports, BellyUpSports.com. Lots of articles constantly being written on all sports across here in the U.S. and Canada. And so go ahead and check it out, BellyUpSports.com. Follow them on Instagram and Twitter, or the X, at BellyUpSports and at BellyUpMedia. Also go ahead and check out all the great podcasts that are available over there at Belly Up Sports, Time to BS, High Low Sports, Corner Booth Pod, tailgated the quad, which I'm sure they're going to be coming back pretty soon. Come college football season, and so many more great podcasts that are over there at BellyUpSports. So go ahead and check them out, man. It is a lot of fun. Matt, check out Insert Name FC, man, on Instagram and the X at Insert Name FC. Check us out on TikTok at insert.name.fc. We post clips on episodes as much as we can. We try to have a lot of fun here and enjoy it. So obviously you guys saw the Gregg Berhalter meme video that I created. So go ahead and check it out, man. And yeah, man, if you guys love the intros and outros that we have on this podcast, I mean, there's only one man behind it, and that's Roosevelt Spencer. Go ahead and check him out at That Guy Dope on Instagram. Once again, at That Guy Dope. If you guys need some beat work done, hit him up. He'll take great care of you like he always does with us. Be on the lookout. Next season, we might have a new sound. So maybe, perhaps. I don't know. Can't tell you. But go ahead and check him out. Once again, at That Guy Dope. We appreciate him so much, bro. He works so hard for us. That's why he's the namesake for the Roosevelt Spencer Player of the Year award. And I think all the qualities that we look for in a top quality player is what we look is what Roosevelt Spencer has. So thank you so much. Yeah, like I said, man, as far as another episode dropping anytime soon, it'll probably be a preview for the Olympics. So in case you guys aren't entirely sure how the Olympics works, we'll go ahead and preview that. Give you guys our predictions for the Olympics. Who's going to win the gold? Who's going to win the silver? And who's going to win that bronze medal? Because it's a little bit different in the Olympics, but I can't wait. I can't wait for that because I'll explain why I can't wait for the Olympics. But yeah. So there is that. Thank you so much for listening. Catch us for our Olympic preview. Once again, not entirely sure when that's going to be, but thank you so much for listening. Catch us for the next episode. Take care, guys.